Welcome to the 23rd episode of the Friday Nightmares podcast. Today we will be talking about Christmas movies, and we have a very special guest who has joined us. But first, let me welcome, myself. Welcome myself. My name is Heather Powell, and I am coming to you today from Waterdown, Ontario, Canada. And with me is
Mr. Smokeshow Crawford himself, coming to you from Swartz Creek, Michigan, chilling with my grumpy dog.
Your grumpy dog. And his 18 cats, because he's, got more since our last podcast.
God, that would be a nightmare.
And we have a very special guest with us today.
We sure do.
This gentleman is one half of a podcasting team that I've been on and had a really great time on that show. I'll let him talk about that. And he's actually has been, and I think will continue to be once COVID is done, very active in the horror community. And his name is Xander Kane. Thank you so much for coming, Xander.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Just hanging out here in the beautiful Atlanta, Georgia on this wonderful Saturday. That's not too cold, not too hot. And, the city's not burning down right now, so that's nice.
That is good. You say not too hot, not too cold, but you did send us a picture earlier of you walking your dog, and I happened to notice no snow on the ground, and that automatically made me angry.
It snowed 2 Mondays ago.
Wait,
no, it did not.
It did. It flurried.
And wait, Heather, do you have snow on the ground right now?
We have some leftover snow.
Oh,
like the real shit stuff, that like gets brown and stuff, and like.
Oh wow! Like we have. Like zero snow here.
Shut up, Scott. No one cares what you.
We typically get, for whatever reasons in our demographic, we typically get every time it does snow, almost it goes like ice.
Oh yeah.
So we get freezing rain, then the road ices over, and then we get a little bit of snow, and it's the end of the world, and the whole national news makes fun of us for shutting down the interstate. But it's not the snow, I promise. It's literally the sheets of ice underneath it.
Well,
and then the snow on top of that to make it even worse.
Yeah, it's not it's not that we're all stupid down here in the South.
Right.
The devil's dandruff has its way with us sometimes.
No one thinks you guys are dumb. Maybe not.
Well, I'm originally from West Virginia, so like I got the double whammy. So.
Oh man. Oh, you tell people that openly?
I do. I
do. Just kidding. Says big talk from fucking someone from Waterdown, Ontario.
Sometimes it instills a little bit of fear for those that are like, really into like the Wrong Turn series. Like, oh, whoa, you're from West Virginia.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, oh, wait, the Mothman's there too. Spooky shit up there.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about I don't know if you do more than one podcast. I just know the one I've been on.
I currently only do one podcast.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that and what else you do.
So currently I am on the Cemetery Gates podcast, which is done with Android virus. We've been doing it off and on for, 3-4 years. I think we got like 70 or something episodes up at this point, which we love. And it's pretty much just an excuse for me to talk to one of my internet buddies that I don't ever get to see. And I met him starting like in 2009. We met on a website called killerreviews.com, which at the time was one of the more premier like independent horror movie websites that was on the web. Like they had a horror movie generator. You could go in and type what you wanted to see, like blood, boobs, whatever you wanted to do, and it would generate horror movies for you. So I added some movies to that database back in the day, and that's kind of what got me started in podcasting and the whole thing. And I was listening to their podcasts, and eventually they wound up letting me on along with Android virus. And we just had a really great time over there. Got a lot of really great opportunities. Eventually became a reviewer at Killer Reviews and reviewed a lot of really cool movies. Got to interview a lot of cool people before they were super famous, which was awesome. Very grateful for those times over there. It was really, really cool time. So, and it was, it got me into some conventions, like Days of the Dead convention, which now does like 5 around the US all year round. But now it's kind of the ownership has pretty much all changed except one guy. So now I don't know anybody there. But at one point I was helping out with the film festival and getting some movies for them on that. And that was really cool. That was kind of like one of the first times like I realized that like people was starting to like recognize some of the stuff that I did through Killer Reviews. And I eventually wound up writing some guest spots on like Horror Movies CA, Johnny's Cult Films, I think Blood Type Online, Witch's Hat, all kinds of different blogs and independent websites I did guest spots on. and got on a few different podcasts here and there. I was on All My Heroes Wear Masks years ago, then Killer Reviews. Then I did a small stint with Podcast Mania on the Dark Hours podcast for a while, and guest spotted a million other places. So it's been many years of lots of awesome people and great opportunities that I'm very thankful and lucky to have. So it's great to be here with you guys today.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'll say like I love you guys. I love the Cemetery Gates podcast too. Like I listen to every episode you guys have released, and I enjoy it. And it's just so refreshing to hear a different side of Android Virus that I am not used to on.
Yeah. So the funny part is like when Heather came on, she was like, "What are you like his?" She's like, "How do you keep him so tame?"
True.
I don't know.
It's true. He must know that he can't get away with shit with you. And if Android, I don't think Android listens to this, but
no, I don't know.
Love you, Android.
I don't know what. I don't know why. My guess is that since I was always like writing and interviewing people and had a little bit of a name, that maybe he doesn't want to. Which I don't care. People can think and say whatever they want. I mean, whatever. But yeah, maybe that's it. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
We just heard your resume, which is very impressive. Scott is up there, or getting up there, with his writing that he's done for pop horror, and I know he's engaged in some interviewing and stuff. I just tell jokes on podcasts and hope.
Yeah, it's been So some of my highlights I can share with you guys if you'd like. Like I got to interview Ed Harris and January Jones and Cloris Leachman. I've interviewed Harrison Smith, Adam Green, Mike Flanagan. Adam Albrandt, Fred Vogel, a lot of the independent kind of underground guys. I got in pretty good with them over a period of time. Jason Hoover, Brian K. Williams, a bunch of stuff. So that's now amazing. It's kind of funny because most of it's actually gone because all the websites have been, shut down, So it all got like kind of weird. Like at one point when I was reviewing, I would post a review for something. Like a good example was like Hatchet 2. When that came out in the theater, I was the second review online post to the person at FearNet. That was it. And by posting that review, I had, 1,500 hits in like an hour and a half of people clicking the review.
That's awesome.
And, so, the ball was rolling back then. And then, I had a few other really big articles that I had written. And then Google started the AdSense stuff. And they started like basically prioritizing the links. And then there for a while, that was like the death of like all these independent like horror websites. And what were really successful blogs is they couldn't catch the foot traffic anymore on Google. So when you Google a movie review, IMDb pops up and a handful of other big ones, and it didn't matter anymore. So like reviews went from pretty hot. Granted, that was a kind of a high profile review, but on just like a normal, not so common review, it'd be around like, within a couple hours, it'd be at a couple hundred, and then at 1,000 by the next day. And then it got to be like, post review and you get 30 clicks in a week and a half, and you're like, the content didn't change, but it's all the Google algorithm. But it took down a lot of really, really great bloggers and independent horror websites. So that definitely changed the face of horror and independent horror for a while, which is starting to come back a little bit, but it's not like it was booming back in the 2009, 2012 era. But that's me being a grumpy old man. So.
Honestly, I think Scott is in love with you. I'm watching his face when you're talking, and Scott has a man crush now. He's just like, Xander, I'm wondering if we can kick Heather off this podcast. And just
I've been asking that for a while.
We have a separate email chain between just him and I.
I can imagine, right? Oh my goodness, I'm so impressed. I don't know. Maybe we should just scrap the whole Christmas thing. Xander, you're just going to talk for the next 3 hours about your experience.
I can easily do that. I won't bore everybody. I'm here.
Well, we really appreciate you being here and sharing. And Scott is an excellent writer, and I'm sure you are too. So it's flattering to be with two people that have experience.
I want to get back in on it. I just haven't decided how I want to do it. I still have a lot of great connections throughout the industry, so I just haven't decided. I was for a while doing Intestinal Fortitude, which is where Cemetery Gates was originally hosted, but then that kind of went defunct, and we moved over to Podbean. So, and I still have the opportunity, right, for killer reviews, but the site's just like, it's not maintained. It's not, it's there, just not really doing anything. So I was like, I don't really know that, or do I do my own thing? I don't know. But I have some stuff written just sitting on. I really like writing essays and stuff these days. I'm more opposed to traditional reviews. It's a little more fun. So.
Is that right? Well, I'm in grad school. Would you be willing to write some essays for me? Because I fucking hate it, Xander. So that would be I'll pay you in
Only on,
Canadian
like,
dollars.
Only in weird French
Bird money.
exploitation films from the 60s and 70s will I write about for you. So if
Well,
you
that's
don't
not
want
going to help me in
those-
my master's in education.
you should submit that anyways, Heather. See what happens.
See what I get a grade on. I'll be like, you can't stop my creativity.
This is art. This is art.
They'll be like, so you want to murder the children so they learn better? Yes.
It's fine. It's totally
This
fine.
is clearly the way education is going.
Strike fear in them and they will listen.
That's the American education system. I'm learning from them.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much, Xander, for sharing. And we look
problem.
forward to this podcast and people listening to you moving forward instead of us. Enjoy the last episode of Friday Nightmares. But we're gonna break into our 2020 watches. Xander, please, when we go around, Scott and I will usually talk about the movie. If you've seen the movie, feel free to add your thoughts.
Yes, I have, because I was going to add a couple, but you guys already had them on the list.
Oh, look
so
at this.
I was
perfect.
Late,
We're
so,
ballas.
yeah.
Ballas. So
So-
the first one is The Call,
Yes.
2020.
Which
And
one?
I believe
There's
this was
two.
on
There's
Netflix.
two.
Shutter.
Yeah, this is the South Korean Netflix.
The South Korean
Okay,
one.
not the Lin Shay and Tobin Bell one.
No.
No. The one that just dropped on Shutter, what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, same time as another one that I think we'll be talking about on the list. Yep, coming right up.
So what did you gentlemen think of this movie? We'll start with Scotty.
I didn't see this one, FYI.
Oh, no. Okay, we'll start with
Oh.
Scotty only. Scotty, what did you think
All
of
right,
this
well,
movie?
This movie was very, very interesting the way it all plays out. I thought it was going to be more of a supernatural style horror film, and when in reality it's kind of more an alternate reality style horror film with things just kind of happening like in the present and in the past. And yeah, the way like the storylines connect, because it's pretty much about this woman that moves into a house and she ends up getting these random calls that seem like someone is in danger, and she finally ends up like convincing the person that's on the call to like communicate with her, and you find out that this is someone in the past that she's talking to, and she's trying to help her with what's going on in the movie, and then things just kind of ramp up from there. And this is one of those films that if not done right would have just fallen apart instantly because of so many plot
So
holes.
if it was done by an American,
Yes, pretty much.
it would have been a lot shittier. There'll probably eventually be an American remake.
I'm guaranteeing there
shitty.
will
I'm
be.
sure.
But I have to say this was put together so perfectly and could have easily just like one wrong thing could have just completely screwed this film up. And no, this was just an excellent film that I highly recommend.
You said
think
it's South Korean, right?
I believe so,
Yeah.
yeah. And I
I
think
love a lot of movies that come out of South Korea. I'm usually a pretty big fan of. So they're very good at like touting that line quite often, where it's just like, okay, it could go one way or the other, and a lot of times it does go the other way, but the vast majority of the time they do typically do okay. So
Yeah, and this one they did amazing.
It's a good ghost story. And I think the character development is very good between the two main female leads.
Would you
and
call
it
this a ghost story?
I would call it, well, I think it's a little ghosty because of it going back and forth with how it goes back. And personally, maybe other people don't consider it like that, because you're looking at a time lapse here.
Oh, that's true.
Right. And I think what's interesting is there was a movie that came out like this years ago, and it was about a gentleman that got a radio and he was able to connect with his father. It's not a ghost story. And he tries to prevent something happening to his dad.
Oh, I remember hearing about
through
that
the
movie.
frequency. And I what I didn't enjoy was the last end of the third act. I feel like I didn't get it. My little simple Heather brain. So Xander, watch it and then come back on the show and explain it to me. That would be great. And I was wrong. This is on Netflix. It's not on Shudder. This is on Netflix.
okay.
And I do think this is an example of where Netflix has really upped their game with horror, but international horror.
Yes.
International everything, I would say.
Yes. I stick to a lot of international horror, but you're probably right. Other international films.
Yeah, so if anybody listening is a fan of like crime thrillers, like with like elements of horror, there is some really great Argentinian and Spanish stuff on Netflix that they've put the money behind, and they're shot great, and the stories are great, and it's the best stuff that they have on Netflix, honestly, in my opinion. So.
Nice.
Awesome. And I'll let Scotty talk about this next bad boy.
All right. So this one has been getting lots and lots and lots of love through the horror community. And this is the film I was just referencing earlier with The Call. This one and The Call both came out roughly around the same time on Netflix. And this one is a Spanish horror film called Don't Listen. And this one is basically about this kid that is hearing voices, which pretty much force you to do crazy things like commit suicide and other things like that. And not going to get too much into the story because there's a twist that happens. But I will say, like, this was a pretty good film. I'm not as high on it as everyone else is, but I did enjoy my time with it. The characters were all very well acted. I mean, once again, it's Spanish horror, and I don't think there's been too many Spanish horror films where I have been disappointed by the acting. And it's had some good creepy moments to it. I felt certain spots were a bit predictable towards like the end, but like leading up to it, I wasn't sure what was going to go on. But this is one that I would say is fairly enjoyable, and this one is definitely a supernatural film, like total ghost story style. And I'd say it's worth watching because, yeah, a lot of people have been finding a lot of enjoyment out of this film, but this is one of those where it was okay for me.
I'm going to say something very egocentric here. I think this movie is good, and we all know my love for Spanish films. But I think you're only really impressed by this if you haven't watched a lot of other movies this year. Because I don't think even when it comes to ghost stories, it's one of the better ones that have come out this year, personally. I think there's other international ones that have been better, but I think for a Netflix, if you're already paying for Netflix, this is some quality that comes out here. But if I had to choose between The Call and Don't Listen, it would be The Call. Have you seen this one, Dave?
I have not, but I did have a question about the kid that hears the voices. Is it just like a normal everyday kid, or do they put some sort of disability on him, like some of the other, because a lot of times they'll do that. Like the kid will be autistic, or the kid will be, and so his heightened sense of whatever is because of his disability. I didn't know if this one was just a normal.
Nope, this is just a normal kid. It's just a curse that is on this house, pretty much.
Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with autistic kids. Please don't nobody take it that way.
And you heard it first, guys. This is what Xander thinks. Come back to Friday Nightmares. Don't go to Cemetery Gates. But I think you made me just think of Come Play.
Yes.
Xander. I'm not sure if you've seen that one, but yeah, no. And you honestly don't get to know the kid for that long. He's not in it for more than the first act. So, yeah, I don't think there's much development. See, anyway. I'm going to be giving away too much if I keep.
I'll say that's a big spoiler right there.
Not really.
That's what I was trying to avoid.
I don't think that's a big spoiler at all. It happens in the first 10 minutes.
What?
I don't think so. I don't know. Scott can decide if he wants to take that out. He spoils movies all the time. I don't think.
No, I'm just giving you a hard time because you always say I spoil.
Yeah, that's because you give away the endings. I don't.
We're awful about spoil. Well, we used to care about spoiling, and sometimes we won't. Like if we feel it like really ruins it, but 9 times out of 10, we're like, no, we're talking about the whole thing.
Well, we try not to with our 2020s. So Scott can choose to delete that if he wants to, when he makes his decision when he's editing.
Just edit a squeaking horn into it.
Yeah,
there you go.
Right, you could do that actually. But I honestly think The Call was a better movie. If you're choosing your time, Dave, Xander. If you're choosing your time, Xander, I would go with The Call. I think you will honestly enjoy that one.
Yeah, personally. I waste my time on a lot of garbage.
Oh, well then keep wasting your time. Never mind. Don't listen to me. Direct to video. This is a documentary.
You skipped one that you watched only.
Oh, I did. The Closet.
You must have wanted to keep it there then, huh?
That's funny. That's good. Have you seen The Closet, Xander?
I've seen Cameron's Closet. I assume that's not the same thing because that movie's from the 70s.
No, I believe this is also a South Korean film. And it, to me, is one of the best ghost stories that has come out this year. I was glued to my screen the entire time. It has a 98-minute runtime. You can find this. Well, we watched it through a good friend's Plex. I'm going to assume iTunes.
Yeah, I don't think it's available just yet. I think it's coming out here in another week or two.
On Shudder?
I think just to rent.
Oh, VOD. Okay.
Yeah.
It's worth renting. This movie is, personally, I think it's an exceptionally well done ghost story. Characters are very believable. It gets you in the feels. South Korean films, man, they dig into your heart and they squeeze it.
And then they take it out and throw it against the wall and put it back in and then get off a bridge.
Scott,
I'm adding this to one of my watch lists on my
please. So. I think you will really enjoy it. Scotty, what do you think?
I have not seen this yet. This is one that this is one I kept telling you. I'm like, I'm trying to get to it this week. I'm trying to get to it, but I just had so many other films I was trying to catch up with because
like some came out last week. There's like 3, and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna see.
And I was trying to catch up with Heather because all of a sudden she just went on a freaking roll of 2020 and just knocking them out left and right. I'm like, all right, so I'm gonna watch this one. I'm gonna watch this one. I'm gonna watch this one, and this is one that I'm definitely gonna be watching before we do our end of the year show.
Yeah, you got to. It is. Yeah. But sometimes we have different tastes, but I think you'll at least enjoy it.
Yeah, I think, usually if you really dig it, it's 90% of the time I do too.
That's true. This is true.
It's the exact opposite, though, with if I really dig it, you may not.
Oh, my God. We're going to get to one of those in a bit.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I don't know what is wrong with you. All right.
Many things.
Have you seen direct-to-video then? Did you watch that?
Yes.
Okay, I'll let you talk about that person.
All right, so direct-to-video is a documentary that is pretty much covering a lot of the, direct-to-video horror films that came out in the 90s. Covers a lot of interviews and conversations with a lot of people from Full Moon and Trauma. So it highlights a lot of those films. And
sounds awesome.
Yeah, it brought me back to my childhood because I watched so many of these movies. Because my stepdad worked for a video distribution company and would always bring horror films home and just we'd add them to our collection. And it was always like the Puppet Master movies and Trancers and Demonic Toys and all that stuff. So seeing a lot of these, and they talk some exploitation and a few other things that were direct to video. But I thought this was a very well done, low budget style documentary.
Felt like somebody's passion project that had a little bit of money and was like, I want to make a.
Yes, you actually may recognize the director. His name is Dustin Ferguson.
Okay, yeah.
He does a lot of the lower budget horror films.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was one of his passion projects that he released.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I need to definitely check that out then.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's a very good documentary.
There's so much good stuff in there from late 87, 88 to 95-ish. There's just tons of great stuff that it just has slowly fallen through the cracks. I actually just picked up a movie called The Garden Tool Massacre. That was a straight video from 1993. Nice. I haven't watched it yet, but it's just a weird independent. And I think that one's actually shot on video, so it's a little more shaky cam. But
and I do enjoy a lot of those shot on video style films.
Yeah, some of them are great.
Heather, how about you? What are your thoughts on this one?
I don't think I can add anything. You did such a good job, Scott. I just enjoyed it. It was a solid documentary. There's only one documentary I haven't been able to get through. And I think it's just because I don't have the love for The Exorcist that other people do.
Oh, yeah.
I just found that one incredibly boring. But this I thought was very palatable. And I think anybody who remembers 90s horror straight to video will enjoy this.
All the Full Moon babies.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And Heather, you are up on this one.
Oh, am I the only one that's seen this one too?
I watched it with you, but I just did direct to video, so.
Oh, okay. It cuts deep. It cuts deep. This is Scott's movie written all over it. When I watched this movie, I was like, oh my God, it's about a relationship. Scott, you're going to like this film. So I want to know if I was right. Scott, did you like this?
I did enjoy this one. I did really like the relationship building in this film. The story, on the other hand, was definitely low budget, and you could see that, it shone through.
Yeah, it is definitely what you can expect when you go, I want to make a horror movie, and I'm a first-time director without a lot of money.
Yep.
And this is probably what you're going to do.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the boyfriend in this because he cracked me up because he kind of reminded me of me, just saying just stupid shit just to be funny.
Mm-hmm.
Though there is a turn in it later that I'm not really buying with him, like the
Yeah.
ending of the film.
Yeah. Which
But,
you
like,
saw coming, in all fairness.
Yes.
Right? But what I appreciate about this film is I thought the characters, for what it was, played themselves well. It doesn't overstay its welcome. You're looking at something that's under 77 minutes.
Yeah,
You
it's a
know,
great movie to watch.
like it's smart. You don't drag out shit longer than you need to. It is available to rent, and I recommend it to rent. I
Yes.
enjoyed it a lot. It's on iTunes, Google Play, Microsoft Store, and YouTube.
Yep, and I completely agree with you. And did you watch this one, Xander?
No, I have not seen this one.
All right, yep, this is definitely another one that I'd recommend. It's very interesting, and especially if you just dig the low budget stuff, because they do.
I love low budget stuff. I noticed listening to the shows, a lot of times you guys do not like the low budget stuff. So.
Oh, really? You haven't heard some of our reviews? One of my favorite movies this year was A Perfect Host. And it was a low budget film with Airbnb.
Yep, well, that and live Scream.
And live Scream.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't like all of them. Like They Reach, Scott likes that. I think it's a piece of shit. But Scott,
I thought that was okay. I think I gave it like a 3 out of 5.
Did you know it was done by Scott's Drama Club?
Oh God, here we go again.
In Schwartz Creek, Michigan. They actually gave him a part, but he couldn't make it that day.
You're such a
so he was
ass.
able to be in it. He has a signed copy of the DVD, or sorry, Blu-ray, if you want it.
Oh,
And we'll be getting to another movie.
Director's cut.
We'll be getting to another movie that Heather believes is part of my drama club as well.
I'm pretty sure Scott's Drama Club did that one too.
Yeah, I'll jump on to the next film, which is one that I am really loving the more I sit with it, and that is Anything for Jackson, that released on Shudder. Which is, I'm going to read the synopsis because this is kind of a crazy ass film.
for sure.
But after losing their only grandson in a car accident, grief-stricken Audrey and Henry, a doctor, kidnaps his pregnant patient with intentions of performing a reverse exorcism, putting Jackson inside her unborn child. It doesn't take long to figure out Jackson isn't the only ghost the grandparents invited into their home. Now it's a race against time for the couple as well as the pregnant woman to figure a way out of the haunting they've set upon themselves. And right off the bat, I have to say the director apparently has done nothing but Hallmark Christmas movies. And this is his first foray.
Which I watched this week.
He's been holding out on us.
And his name is Justin G. Dick, or Dyke, D-Y-C-K. I'm not sure how you would pronounce that. But
all right.
But yeah, like I heard it was a guy that did Hallmark movies. I'm going, wait a minute. Okay, what? This is gonna be terrible. And then I watched it and was completely and utterly creeped out by some of the scenes in this film. Like, there were some extremely shocking and unnerving moments for something that I did not expect to like originally.
Yeah, I like this one a lot as well. It does have a lot of like, oh crap moments. Like, yeah. And it definitely does. It has a really great job with sound editing in that one too. Like, the music is fantastic. There's certain things that happen with some of these other things that come into the house that I don't necessarily want to give away, but like, it's a very specific sound that you hear and it comes through and you're like, wait a minute. And then it's revealed to you and you're like, holy crap. It's super fun. I think the actors are great. Julian Richings is a character actor that's been in a million things. He's been in Urban Legends, 12 Monkeys TV show. He's got like 215 IMDb credits. You would recognize this guy from something. TV, horror movies. He's been in some X-Men movies. He's been in Superman movies. He's everywhere. He's just a good, solid character actor, and he knocks it out of the park, I think, in this one playing the doctor. That was a huge positive for me that he was in it.
And Heather, what did you think?
I don't think I can add anything that you gentlemen haven't already said. It was a very well-filmed movie. It used, I believe, a lot of practical effects very well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There was some very good people with additional talents that were in this film that were exceptional. The plot moved quickly. It was a palatable watch, an easy watch. It startled me at times.
Yeah.
Like, there were times where I was like, that's always a good sign when it makes you jump, right? Now, unfortunately, it's not on Canadian Shudder. So for my American
Oh, that's right.
listeners, you can access it. I had to get it by other means, but for everyone living in the U.S. and possibly Australia, maybe Tim Davis can comment on whether they have it in Australia. But it is available on Shudder.
Yep. I will say this is definitely top 10 material for a lot of people.
This is top for the year. This is in my top 5 hands down. There's no way this doesn't make it in my top 5 horror films of 2020.
I'm thinking the same thing.
I don't see, like, the more I think about it, I'm like, no, you're in the top 5.
Yeah.
here's your rose. You get to go to the next level.
Nothing. I've always wanted a rose. My dream, one day.
Well, Christmas is coming, so
That's true. You never know, right? You never know. Is it my turn next, guys?
Yes, it is.
Freaky, 2020. Have you seen this, Xander?
No, I'm really on the fence about it though.
It was 2, and I think
it's a Blumhouse picture, right?
it is.
I have a very
Happy Death Day.
Yeah, pretty much love-hate relationship with Blumhouse. They can do a lot of stuff really great and then give you some of the worst garbage that's ever been put on screen. I don't understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the best definition I've heard.
Because they make like The Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss, which was fantastic. And then they made some of those Hulu movies that are just awful. Like the End of the Dark series, they're terrible. There's like a couple of them that are watchable, but none of them are really very formulaic. And I'm like, okay, Blumhouse.
But I look at those as as I call bubblegum horror. They're not real horror fans. You're showing that to people that are like, honey, I want something scary, but not too scary, and you throw on that shit.
The soccer mom, they could label the soccer mom horror club.
Yes, that is the best. That's a really.
I'm an edgy mom. I watch Hulu in the dark.
That's right. That's exactly who it's for. Exactly. This
when
I
Hallmark
will say,
movies don't cut it anymore. Into the dark.
I want to step up my game. I'll show Susie at the potluck.
Goddamn mashed potatoes taste like garbage.
So this movie I can say is better than Into the Dark. If you gotta like Vince Vaughn, that is the only
which I love Vince Vaughn and just about everything. So I can't actually think of a movie I didn't like him in. So
then you will like this because he steals the show.
If he's like his character in Old School, in Wedding Crashers, I'm in.
No.
Like the zany. Hey!
Oh yeah, he's zany. He's definitely zany. I think it's worth the rental. I think it's a great horror comedy. I think for some people it will be their favorite horror comedy of the year. Do I think it's that level? No, I think there's other movies that I found funnier, but I think it's very palatable, easy to watch, and you could show it to maybe someone who kind of likes horror but doesn't like horror, and you want to just watch a kind of horror movie that's not really a horror movie and watch it. What do you think, Scotty?
I'm pretty much right there with you. This, though, I would probably put it up it may be in my contention for best comedy horror for the year because man, I was laughing my ass off at some of these scenes and fucking Vince Vaughn just doing what he does and just the way he's portraying a 15-year-old girl is freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
And though when he's the killer, he's actually intimidating as fuck.
Yeah, he does a good job.
Yeah, he's very intimidating as the killer. And then when he's when he switches it off and goes right to the 15-year-old girl, it's like, holy shit. It's like a light switch, just the way you can switch between them. And
it sounds like he's a great casting for that because if you've seen him in Domestic Disturbance and
that's the movie I was referring to before.
She was telling me about that one.
The Psycho remake, the Gus Van Sant Psycho remake, he actually does a really good job of being creepy, but it's weird because can go from one end to the other. But I think it's probably for him, it's going to be a little more reliant on how well the script is written. He can pull it off, but he's definitely got that range, which is super impressive.
Yeah, and I have to say, I did not expect this film to be as violent as it is either. There's a lot of good gore in this film, and
it was supposed to be full mainstream in theaters too, right?
Yeah.
I think it lasted 1 week in my theater before we got the shutdown again.
Yeah.
But I'll bring up the next one, which
we gotta say where we can find it.
Oh yes,
it's iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, Microsoft Score, and for my Canadian brothers and sisters, it is now officially on Cineplex, which is our major go to. So how basically Canada has been handling COVID is everyone's put into specific regions. So some areas may have theaters, some areas may not. So they waited a while because it was still playing in theaters in different areas of Canada, because Canada is big. For my American friends, it's large, just
It's
so we're clear.
very huge.
There's multiple provinces. I do not live near BC.
She
So
lives in Winter Wonderland, people.
no, I do not live in
I love BC.
Scotty.
BC, but
See, the fact that you know where BC is already
Yeah.
makes me like you more.
yeah,
And
spent
if you
2
know,
weeks there last 2
See?
summers ago.
see, there we go, a knowledgeable person. So this took a while, but it is now on Cineplex for renting for anyone in Canada who wants to support Cineplex. And please support Cineplex. They need our support right now. Please rent it from Cineplex if you can. So that's my PSA for Cineplex.
And then I will jump into the next film, which I believe this one is to rent on Amazon, and it is called Snatchers.
Yeah, it is.
This movie. All right. This movie is about pretty much a teenage girl ends up having sex for the first time, and she ends up getting pregnant. But the thing is, this pregnancy is not normal. It is a pretty much goes from 0 months pregnant to 9 months pregnant in 1 to 2 days. And,
Whichever woman probably wishes was reality.
right, just to get it
Like,
done
let's
and
be
over with.
fucking real talk. I've never had a baby, but I've never heard some woman be like, "Man, I really love being swollen."
Yeah.
Right. You ever had your ankles like bigger than the base of your feet?
No,
Great.
it looks really painful. So I'm sure like everyone's fantasy is for this to be a reality. Only not what happens. I'm sure.
Yeah. And what happens is she ends up giving birth to this kind of cute puppety looking alien that likes to attach itself to the back of people's heads and basically control them like it's a parasite. And then it basically turns the people against them. And it is freaking hilarious. It's violent and just all around very, very, very entertaining movie. Like this is also one that's in contention for my favorite comedy horror of the year.
Nice. Yeah, it seems like the title makes a play on Body Snatchers, if it, latching
Yes,
on
and
and all that
that's
stuff. Yeah.
very
You are
similar
a
to that.
smart one, Xander. You got this shit. We should just step away. But I will caveat that this is a very teenage girl focused dialogue. It's very
Yes.
millennial focused dialogue. So if you are somebody who doesn't like millennials for whatever reason, this dialogue may get on your nerves a little bit, but I still think it's worth watching. I found it very funny. It's available through Amazon, iTunes, Google, Microsoft Store, and YouTube. And then the next one, Spontaneous.
Hmm.
Have you seen this one, Sander?
No, but it sounds like it's about combustion. Am I right?
Close. Very
Very
close.
much. I guess, Scotty, I'll let you. I kind of, just because I thought you were busy at that moment, I went through and just read the
All
next movie. But I'll let you talk about this one if you want.
All right. This one is on the verge of what I would call more of a drama than horror film.
Mm-hmm.
But the horror elements is these kids in this high school just sitting there doing their normal day when all of a sudden one student just explodes into a pool of blood for no reason. And then all of a sudden it just starts happening to all the rest of the students in this high school at random times and pretty much puts them into quarantine where they're getting tested and all that stuff, trying to figure out what's going on. They think it's some type of viral disease. But this pretty much is a coming of age story that has a very, very strong focus on teenage relationships and a lot of the teenage angst that comes along with growing up as well. But man, the acting in this is incredible. The character building is amazing. It's got some funny, like light moments to kind of give you some levity. But this is a very, very serious, pretty heartbreaking story that, it left me like feeling very sad. But at the same time, like this is such a well done, amazing film that I highly recommend anybody watch this.
Yeah, see, that's a great thing for me. Like a lot of people are like, I was like, well, that movie really like messes with your head and like upsets you and, makes you feel like a very specific way. Like, I can't believe you do that. But to me, it's like, that's like the thing about these movies is like, when you really like do a lot of things really well from like the story standpoint and manage to put it together on screen, and when all the pieces align, like it has a very lasting effect on you, and like it's true art. You know, it's art. So it's good stuff. I'm definitely gonna put that on the list.
Yeah, and when you can get a film that just pulls on the emotions like that, it's impressive.
Yeah.
Like, and you've seen this as well, Heather, right?
I have. No, the only criticism I have of it is it reminded me very much of Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist from 2008. I actually felt without the clear plot thing that was integrated into this film, it walked a very similar line.
Okay.
Which is fine. That was a good movie, but I definitely went into it thinking it was going to be more of a horror than it was. I think if I had walked in knowing it was going to be more along the lines of like a Juno as well, like just how the acting and the dialogue is, it reminded me very much of Nick and Nora, Juno, which is fine. It's just not a fast-paced movie, but a very enjoyable movie and a very well acted. The young actors that are in it do a phenomenal job. All of them probably have a very bright future ahead of them, I hope.
Yeah.
Especially the young man that's in it. I think I've seen him in other things.
He looked very familiar to me.
He looked very familiar. It is available on Amazon, iTunes, Google, Amazon to rent or Prime, I guess, depending, I guess, where you live for Prime, and Microsoft Store.
Yep. High recommend for me, for sure. Now for the fun.
Dum, dum, dum.
So the next film on the list is the Castle Freak remake that was an exclusive on Shudder, dropped, I think, the same day as Anything for Jackson. And this pretty much is a different take of...
Oh, sorry.
We'll get there. But pretty much a different take on the Castle Freak movie that Stuart Gordon did back in the 80s. It, instead of being a young child that is blind, it ends up being an older woman that, like, her and her boyfriend, like, drinking at a party, they get in a wreck, and she ends up being blind from the wreck. And then later on finds out that she has inherited a castle that is hiding a monstrous beast within its walls. And this is a very Lovecraftian horror film, and actually takes the story of the cat. I forget the name of the book that Castle Freak was based off of, or the short story, but takes that story and then has 3 or 4 different stories of Lovecraft's implemented into this to give you, because Castle Freak was more like just like monster movie, monster hiding in the walls. This one is definitely more Lovecraftian, has a lot of the elder god talk and like summoning the old ones, and even brings in the Necronomicon and all that. So of course, you know, Lovecraft, Scott, I fell in love. Yes, Heather, I know the acting is pretty
painful.
Bad.
It is some of the worst acting I've ever seen. Your drama club could have done better.
And but I will say, like, I really enjoyed this because it had some great effects. The monster was really freaky looking. Practical effects were really done well, and I really did enjoy the story because of how it brought in a couple of different stories from Lovecraft.
Yeah, the original Castle Freak is based off The Outsider.
Yes, that was the name of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I forget the name. Like Jamie Sammons and Brian Sammons from ABC's The Hidden Horror talked about what other books were implemented into this movie, and I forget which ones they were.
Yeah.
But yeah, I highly recommend this one, like if you're a big Lovecraftian fan. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, Heather.
I agree that it was well filmed. The practical effects were exceptional.
Sounds like reluctancy right there.
But the acting was fucking atrocious, Scott. It was some of the worst I've ever seen. There's one part, and I don't care if this is a spoiler, there's a sex scene and someone's fucking masturbating in a stairwell beside them. It's fucking stupid.
What's wrong with that?
It's a porn. And you see so much.
When the mood hits
you. That's fine.
Yeah, when the mood hits your eye like a pizza pie, you know.
Look, we all know I like the mood.
Who are we to judge the most primal, like, you know,
I don't judge.
desires.
Trust me, Xander. I am all about being down to pound. But this movie, I was watching and I was like, you gotta be fucking. And some of the characters are so over the top, like, I'm a bitch. I'm a nice girl. I'm a dick. And I think that if this movie had got better actors and a better script, it would have been better.
Yeah.
I think it was a beautifully filmed movie. I think the practical effects were awesome.
I think I have to watch it now.
And I think that there was potential, but the poor acting and the poor delivery of the lines and the poor written film, this would never even grace a top 10. I don't believe in doing bottom 10s, but if I did, it would be a bottom 10.
No, this would be my top 20 out of the 200 some odd films I've seen.
Yeah. So for, I guess it's just the way that I kind of got like into horror was like really on like the independent, like lower budget stuff. So like for like acting, I almost always can give a pass on if everything else is good. Like if the writing is solid and sound, and if everything else is handled,
the writing is not solid and sound.
I can get over the acting. Like it really doesn't bother me because I've suggested movies that people don't like. The acting's fucking atrocious. I was like, well, who cares? They're like, I care. I'm like, oh, okay, sorry.
I think you'll feel very different watching this film, Xander.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it tonight now.
Porns. Like, if you're like, I like softcore porn.
Hey man, I love silk stockings. And
okay, then you know what? Name of this. You and Scott will definitely.
I'll say I have a feeling, if anything, Xander will probably land somewhere in between us. At the very least.
Well, it's going to happen this weekend. I'm going to watch it tonight or tomorrow morning. So
we actually want you to leave and watch it now and come back.
And pause.
No, we're going to keep going, but we'll just
talk for 2 hours. Watch it. Yeah.
Right?
Just holler my name when you need me. I'll focus.
Right. We want midway updates throughout it. But yeah, if you are interested in watching it, you can find it on iTunes. I am going to watch it. I'm like, why?
Why would you do that?
You can watch it on iTunes, Google, Shudder, Microsoft Store, and YouTube. And it is available in Canada if you feel like torturing yourself, my Canadian friends.
Or if you feel like giving yourself an amazing Lovecraftian.
Yeah, or you need something to like get you going.
So
then yes.
Should I go in with the expectation of just like completely removing the original Castle Freak out of my mind and try to vision it as its own thing? Or is there some like nods to it at all?
There are some nods to it, but I would say this is more of a like
clean slate.
Almost kind of like a clean slate that takes the outsider storyline and then just builds on it and adds more to it.
Okay, cool. I'm in.
All right, and it looks like these four are all you, Xander.
They're all me. You haven't seen any of them?
Nope, these are ones I have not seen.
I've seen one of them.
Nice. All right. Well, two of these there's only one way to see two of these. So the first one up is Last Thanksgiving from 2020. This is an independent release from Scream Team Releasing, who does a lot of really great independent releases of movies. Like one of the cool things they do, if you're not familiar with them, when a movie first comes out, they'll offer like signed editions, so you can get it signed by the cast and the crew and everything.
Nice.
But The Last Thanksgiving is about a family of cannibalistic like people that have like pilgrim heritage. They're not technically like actual pilgrims, but like it's in their bloodline or whatever, and they get pissed off because the restaurant's staying open for Thanksgiving, and one of the characters that works at the restaurant has like a big falling out with her family. She just is a typical teen that hates her mom and dad, and she just goes to work like mad at her mom and dad and venting about how awful they are. And then this family of comes in and decides to slaughter every one of them, and then from there on it's just like a cat and mouse game of like how the hell are they going to escape these crazy ass pilgrim people. But it has a lot of really good like effects. It definitely like harkens on that like 80s vibe, like it's 80s vibe. It's shot like with a little bit of grain to it. The sets are all kind of, I wouldn't say they're like perfect 80s sets, but they do make an attempt to make things like dated looking as far as like props and where they're recording and the vehicles that are around. So it gives you a pretty good vibe, 80s vibe to it, even though I don't even think it's technically set in the 80s, but that's just kind of what they were going for.
Nice.
But as far as like a Thanksgiving like slasher film, I think this one kind of checks most of the boxes. We don't have a ton of really great Thanksgiving horror flicks.
No, there's only like technically two good ones, I would say, Pilgrims and Blood Rage.
Yeah, that's it. And to me, both of those I didn't like Pilgrims. Well, it was okay. And then Blood Rage is fun to watch once for me. Like it was fun to watch one time. And this one, I think it's a great independent, like little weird slasher holiday release. So, but unfortunately, the only way you can get it is buying it from Scream Team right now. It's not streaming anywhere.
How much is it?
I think it's $19.99.
Okay. So
if you want it signed,
Canadian. Okay.
Yeah, if you want it signed by the cast and crew, I think it's like $23.99. They charge like $4 or $5 more for a signed copy.
That's
But
not bad at
honestly,
all.
it's a cool attempt at a Thanksgiving slasher, and I will definitely watch it again around Thanksgiving time. I think it was pretty cool. I mean, I wouldn't say expect like amazingness from it. You really gotta just appreciate the stuff that it does do, and I really did, and I thought it was solid. So I recommend The Last Thanksgiving. If anybody feels so inclined to check it out, please do.
I will try to find it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's on our good friends Plex actually.
Okay.
Is it? Okay.
I think so.
And then
We're bad people. So.
We are.
Oh,
We
you
support when
bad
we can.
people.
I know.
Oh, I get it. It gets expensive.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess I'm just gonna roll into the next one.
Yeah, keep rolling. Keep rolling,
right.
rolling.
So
Oh,
up next
please don't.
is what? No LIMPBIZ. Up next is Range Runners, another 2000. This was technically filmed in 2019 and did a little bit, but it eventually got its release the 22nd of not 22nd of this year. It will be released on physical copy on the 22nd of January, but it is available on Amazon Prime streaming free right now.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's about a woman who has a love for hiking and decides to go on like what it doesn't really say, but it seems like she's doing like a segment of the Appalachian Trail or something. Like her sister's coming in and dropping her off supplies and stuff every so often, and you eventually find out her father passes away, and her father had a really tumultuous relationship where he was very almost militant at her training for track running. And obviously in her eyes, she was never good enough for her father. And so it's definitely like a stymied relationship. And so this lady goes out to basically kind of find herself and find her peace, but she gets in a situation where she comes across some other hikers that are there up to no good. They're in trouble.
Poor intentions.
They're in trouble, so they wind up having, they kidnap her, and all these other things start happening, and it's a lot of flashbacks in the movie from her, whatever situation she's in the movie. It'll flashback to a scene with her and her dad, and that's kind of like how she musters up the courage to like go on. Which I liked a lot of this movie, but I felt like the flashbacks they almost all were too long. Like at a certain point, you get it. You're like, okay, we get it. You and your dad didn't get along. And I think this movie clocks in at like an hour and 50 minutes, which is
Oh wow.
far too long. And it's not that it's bad. Like it's like she does great as the lead. The story is solid. Even the bad guys in there are good. And it is an interesting watch. It's just like for me, like I felt like every flashback scene with her dad after the first two, they're all like a minute and a half too long. And it's just like, you're like, okay, we get it. I want to see what happens with the story. I get it. She's going to, use that for inspiration. And you're going to find out like, at her core, who she is. But all in all, it's just okay. It's nothing amazing. Just runs a little long, but I would say check it out. It's kind of a different horror film. It's filmed in the woods. So there's nothing like elaborate or crazy set wise or anything like that. But it is an interesting story. So
I'm so going to watch this movie. This totally is like up my alley, Xander.
Yeah, I'll say this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say that it's just that the runtime is way too long. Like it needed to be, I would say an hour and 30, an hour and 35 probably would have capped it. There's a lot of excess that could be cut out of the film that would make it a better film. Because like I said, I don't think it's a badly made film at all. It's just it goes so long by the time you get to that last like 20 minutes, they do like 3 flashbacks in a row. You're like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah, this sounds like one of those movies where I will make sure to be watching it while I'm working, just to kind of help. Like,
honestly, you could follow along with it that way. You really could. It's not like a crazy in-depth story. It's just not. So
that's awesome. Thank you for bringing these. By the way, it's Scott and I do watch a lot. We have watched a lot this year, but it's always nice when people bring new stuff that we've never heard of.
Yeah.
Well, I intentionally tried to pick stuff that I couldn't see on you guys' letterbox. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's also available on iTunes, Google, and Microsoft Store and YouTube for Canadians, because I don't think we can get it on Prime. So
Oh, that's right. They do different.
Right. So if any Canadians are interested, that's where we would get that. And the next one I have seen.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to do it?
You go ahead and I will comment.
Okay. So this is another 2020 film, obviously. This is May the Devil Take You 2. And it's technically a sequel to May the Devil Take You. And one of the things I really liked about this is how they kind of spun it into a sequel. So what you get here is if you've seen the first one, the people left at the end of the movie happen to be in this one. And the way they tie it into the sequel is a group of people that are experiencing kind of similar things, and they feel since they survived the first movie, that they can assist them in their problems. And it's all about conquering the devil and fears, and it's two sisters. They are sisters, right?
Yes, I believe they're sisters. You're right.
Yeah, and it's just them. They get kidnapped by this group of people. It's them trying to fight their way out, and of course, there's a backstory of was he a foster father or was it?
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I saw it a couple of weeks ago now, so it's a little fuzzy.
Yeah, so I can't. I think he's just a foster father.
I think
it's not
so
like
too.
A technical orphanage, and it's a guy that has like these 7 kids, but he abused these kids, and there's all sorts of each character has their own issue with what had gone on. But I think it's a pretty cool story. I just really liked how they made it a sequel, and I still like the lead characters, and she's great again, and she's battling through all the turmoil that they're kind of putting her through, and all these other things. I think there's great practical effects in it. There is it almost loses you a couple times because of some bad CG at a couple points.
Yeah, I agree.
But overall, I just enjoyed the story so much, and I love the dilapidated house that they filmed it in. Was really great. The sets were great. The sound was great. I was able to overlook that CGI stuff and a few other minor things that I didn't agree with, but I thought it was a great little spooky possession demonic film.
Nice.
I agree with you. I think the only thing I would add is that yet again, Netflix pulls it out internationally and always brings the best. And I think this is better than probably other.
Wasn't this Shudder?
I think it was Netflix, wasn't it?
So the first one,
Netflix.
Netflix. The second one is Shudder.
Is the second one Shudder?
Yeah, the second one's exclusive to Shudder. It's weird. That's the first movie I've ever seen where one was exclusive to Netflix and the sequel was exclusive to Shudder.
Yep, you're right. It is.
That is weird.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that it was a really decent ghost story. I don't think it'd be my top ghost story because I didn't see the first one. And I do think
good. The first one's good, but I would argue that this one actually there was things I liked more in the second one than I did the first one. So,
really?
Yeah. It's a solid sequel for normally you don't get good sequels out of stories like this, right?
No.
You really don't. So the fact that we got one that was very watchable and entertaining was 2 thumbs up for me.
Awesome. Yeah, no, so it's on Shudder and you can access it in Canada if you would like to watch it on Shudder as well.
Yeah.
And then you got the last one.
Got the last one. So this is actually another one from Scream Team Releasing, just because I happened to buy this in the last Thanksgiving at the same time.
Nice.
This is Spinechiller, another 2020 movie. And the whole idea here is it's like a little anthology film, but it's wrapped around this Spinechiller event, which is an annual Halloween dance. And they just kind of go from story to story. I think there's 4 different stories about all the people that are invited to dance and how their little spooky stories all kind of align up. It starts off really slow and is nah, but it does finish strong. Not the best anthology in the world, but it does hit a lot of really good spots in there. There's a few good practical effects scenes. Obviously, I didn't have a ton because it's a pretty low budget film. But for what they had and what they did, I thought it was entertaining enough. I would just kind of, another anthology film. We have a ton of them, so.
I like anthologies a lot, actually.
Yeah, I hold this one up. So there's another one called 1031.
Yes, I actually watched that this year.
The Mortuary Collection, which is really great.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of other really good Halloween anthology movies. So it's hard to say this one is super awesome. But I do think it's a great admirable effort and it's worth checking out. And there are a few little things in there that I really did like about Spinechiller. But like I said, it started slow. But in the grand scheme of things, it's really not even that long. I think it's an 83-minute movie. So you're not looking at anything really drawn out. If you're looking for something different, something a little independent you want to support, I think this one's worth checking out.
That's awesome. Thank you for bringing these.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. I'll watch the 3, to be honest with you. All of them sound like they're right up my alley.
Yeah.
And I'll never watch Castle Freak again.
Yes, you will. You're watching. We're going to review it.
Oh my no, we're not.
We're gonna do a commentary on it.
Oh, yes. We're not. I will be busy.
Nope. No, you won't. I will be this will be the when you come to visit. This is what
I'm never coming to visit again if that's the case.
This is going to be the hostage situation we talked about before, where I'm going to duct tape you. See, this will be the movie I'll torture you with. I'll duct tape you to a chair, feed you kale chips, and make you watch Castle Freak.
Kale chips?
Yep, because she
I
hates
think-
kale chips.
Oh, no. Oh, let me guess. You like kale chips, Xander.
Is that because I live in the city? Is
it because you're woke? Is that why?
No, I actually fucking hate kale, and I wish the world would stop telling everybody it's fucking good. It's a garnish. Get it off
Xander, you
my
may
plate.
stay on the podcast.
Great.
Even though you may like Castle Freak. We're
probably
gonna
gonna love
move. You probably will. It's
Fair
coming.
warning.
We're gonna get into our older movies. We just each brought two to the table because if not, we'd be here all day. I'll talk quickly about my two. I watched Dead End, 2003, which is promoted as a Christmas movie. This is not a Christmas movie.
The fuck it ain't.
They're like the only thing that makes
They're driving in the car on Christmas to get there Christmas Day.
Because they tell us it's Christmas. That's why they're
There's Christmas music on the radio.
and they sing Jingle Bells. So you know,
I mean, it's a shoo-in.
I liked this. I watched this because Lynn Shay was on it and Ray Liotta.
Oh, Ray Liotta?
Ray Wise. Ray Wise.
No, Ray Wise. Sorry.
Oh,
Ray Liotta. Good thing
Ray
I'm here.
Wise. And I know I'm just yelling out Rays. Ray.
Ray.
The ending, I was like, oh fuck, come on! It was an ending that reminded me of my new favorite movie, Campfire Tales from 1997. But
I rented that from Blockbuster.
Fine. You did? You really?
Campfire Tales, yeah.
I bet you didn't drink and drive after that movie, Xander. Because you know what would happen if you drink or drive? You sit around and tell campfire fucking tales while all your friends die slowly around you. That's what you do. But it was fine. It was on Tubi. And I think it's entertaining enough, but
it's a Christmas movie.
It was funny. Parts of it were funny. I don't think it's a strong Christmas movie. But now that we know what Sanders believes Christmas movies are, I can see why he thinks this is a Christmas movie.
And the ghost in that is a famous model that I'm blanking on her name right now, but she is a famous model.
She looks like Moon, Rob Zombie's wife.
Sherry Moon?
No, it's not her.
It's not her, but I was like, is that?
She kind of does look like her. Yeah, I love that movie. We did an old episode on My Heroes Wear Masks on this movie. So
it's a fun film. I gotta say, I did enjoy some of the jokes in it. I did enjoy Lynn Shay in it. I'm sure it's really funny. But yeah.
Yeah, it's Amber Smith is the model.
Amber Smith. The ending was just too cheese for me. But that's me. Santa Sleigh Now, 2005. This is a quality Christmas film. I watched this as well on Tubi, and I kind of went into it like when you know that Bill Goldberg is Santa, like anyone who watches wrestling is going to be like, okay, right? Yep. Right, set your expectations. But that opening scene with Fran Drescher and I don't know, some other
Chris Kattan and
fuck, it was fun. Like it's just stupid, but it knows it's stupid. It's not trying to be anything other than some fucking dumb Christmas movie.
No, this is like the new age Jack Frost.
Yeah, like it was dumb. It was dumb, and it was easy to watch it. They had some curly shit in there, which I thought was pretty fucking hilarious being Canadian. On Tubi as well, an easy watch. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it's worth watching just for Bill Goldberg when he comes down the chimney. Like
yes, that opening scene of Bill Goldberg. And he does wrestling moves when he goes to the fucking strip club.
Oh, yes, that was amazing.
It's funny. If you like wrestling or you just like stupid fucking movies, you'll enjoy this. And both are free on Tubi. So
yep, because I watched this for the first time this year with I think shortly after you did, and oh my god, I was just laughing my ass off.
Right?
It was great.
Yeah, it's super fun.
So Xander, your two are up next.
I'm up next.
Look how classy he is. What is this shit?
Oh yeah. So up first for me is The Beast Must Die from 1974. This is Amicus Film Productions, which if you're familiar with Hammer and Amicus, you know they were some of the few great studios that made a lot of horror movies back in the day. But this one also happens to star Peter Cushing in it, you know, from Dracula fame and a few other the Hammer Amicus films. But this movie has this movie has a really cool idea. So the idea is the movie is almost interactive in a way from 74, which is like groundbreaking, right? So it starts off and there's like a guy in the woods like running around, and he's going to this castle, and you're like, what the hell is going on? This is stupid. And then you finally figure out he's hosting an event at his house, much like Vincent Price in House on Haunted Hill.
Nice.
He has all these people here, and he knows one of them is a werewolf. And so he gets them all there, and basically he's trying to find the werewolf to kill it. And the movie like stops when you figure all that revelation out. The movie stops and is like, okay, now it's you get to play along and figure out which one is the werewolf. And it tells you like clues will drop throughout the movie, and you'll try to piece things together. And then before the reveal at the end of the movie, they're going to stop the screen again and give you 30 seconds to like say your answers amongst your group and see if you were right on who it was.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. Super cool concept. The first 45 minutes of this thing are about as boring as can be. Like there's nothing happening. It's not really interesting. Peter Cushing almost is at the beginning of the movie, he is kind of wasted, but toward the end, his character kind of develops into something more worth watching. I had really high hopes for this movie because people were like, it's one of the best Amicus movies that they've ever made. And while I will agree with it was very groundbreaking for 1974 to kind of take that approach to where your narrator is like, hey, stop, play along. Super cool. Would have been great to see in the theater back then if anybody had the ability. But for me, like it was just the first 40 minutes were so boring, and like the payoff is mediocre at best, in my opinion. There's no like super great werewolf transformation. It's just so in all, it was just kind of okay. But I do think it's worth watching just to kind of see that kind of goofy element. But I don't expect anything like fast paced and like amazing. Like, but some people love it. But it just didn't check that for me in that box. I just thought it was, meh.
Yeah, because I've heard of this one, but yeah, I've heard some good things about it, but I've never seen it.
Some people love it, but I think it's one of those that you just kind of have to watch and decide on your own. Like either you're into it or you're not. If you love Hammer and Amicus, like 90% of what they make, you will like it because a lot of their stuff is slow building for the first 30, 40 minutes. But in some of their movies, for me, the payoff is great, and sometimes the payoff is not great. So proceed with caution if you want to watch The Beast Must Die. And it was available on Amazon Prime for sure for American viewers. I don't know about Canadian viewers, but
I'll have to look later.
I'll have to look that up. And then up next, I have Horror Rises from the Tomb from 1973. This is a Paul Naschy film, and I had recently picked up the 2 box sets that Scream Factory released on their Shocktober sale for like $30 a piece. And there's like 6 movies on one and 5 movies on the other, so you get a good bit of movies. And if you're familiar with Paul Naschy at all, like he has a ton of movies. He's got over 100 IMDb credits, and a lot of his movies never got like nice restorations. A lot of the releases that we did have of his films were very poor quality. They were missing, they were missing film segments and stuff. Just a lot of his catalog was lost. But Scream Factory got a hold of a bunch of it and cleaned them all up and made 2 beautiful box sets with amazing artwork and liner notes and all the awesome things you would ever want if this is like your genre. But Horror Rises from the Tomb, Paul Naschy plays like a medieval like warlock, and it starts off like way back forever ago. Start of the movie, he gets killed, and his wife, mistress or whatever, who's a vampire, also gets killed. And then a couple 100 years later, someone finds his head that was decapitated. It brings him back, and he comes back to life and starts like murdering everything inside. So there's lots of the cool Spanish like countryside in this film. Like it looks really pretty. It's cleaned up very nicely. This is a very solid film from Naschy. Some of them aren't so great. This one's very good. I think it's definitely like a whole vibe, right? Like it's like a lot of those films kind of feel the same, and this one's I don't know where it lines up in the timeline on the Naschy films, but it's really, really good, and it's just a fun ride. And if you like, it's very weird though. Like it's just a weird story. Naschy's a very creepy guy, but like he just nails that. Like think like Bela Lugosi Dracula, but like Spanish and a little more doom. A little more like dooming when he comes into the room. Like you're like, oh shit, bad stuff's about to happen. It's about to track some shit, but it's super cool. So I loved Horror Rises from the Tomb. So that's a huge recommend for me. And if you've never seen any of his films, this is actually a great one to start with.
Yeah, because I'd seen Curse of the Devil when I was podcasting for the Horror Drunks, and I fell in love with that movie and became one of my like top 10 werewolf films.
Yeah.
And it really makes me want to look into more of his filmography, which I'm probably going to do after this year's over with as first time watches.
Yeah, for sure. I would highly recommend those Scream Factory releases if you find them on a good deal. Like, you're just not going to find those particular films. You're not going to find a better like transfer.
Yeah, I had the first box set, and I ended up having to sell it before I got a chance to watch them all because I started just selling my collection because I realized I just never watched any physical media lately.
Yeah, I've done that like 10 times, but
Yeah.
I gotta keep physical some stuff, and these are things that this is stuff that I would definitely hold on to. So just because there's not a bunch of them out there.
Right. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check this one out at some point for sure. But yeah, I'll jump into my two. And as always,
I know they're gonna be like, look at the shit we followed that with. Like, look at this sandwich of like Mr. Xander coming in and being like, "Hey guys, want to see how smart I am?" And I'm like, "I like Tennessee." All right, Scott, you learned in with this really like up there film too. That's super deep.
All right. So yeah, as always, I go with the theme. So since we were doing Christmas episodes, I was just trying to look for a bunch of different Christmas horror films that I've never seen before. And I've watched probably a good 9 Christmas horror films I've ever seen this year, but I'm only going to talk about 2 of them right now. And the first one is P2, which I'm surprised took me this long to watch, but just the thought of this movie and like the synopsis and everything, I was like, okay, it'll be kind of like a cat and mouse style game or movie, and it's not really going to be much of a Christmas film. Boy, was I wrong. This actually had a lot of like elements like that, made it feel like it was Christmas. It is pretty much a cat and mouse style movie, but holy shit, it is done really well. Wes Bentley is over the
awesome.
top.
He's awesome at it.
Yes, he is great. And I had a blast with this film. Like, I'm kicking myself for not
waiting so long.
Was that
waiting so long to see it? Is that
yes? Yeah. Oh my god! Like that. I'm glad Heather recommended this one to me. Like, because she ended up messaging me going, "If you haven't seen it, watch it." I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I think this movie falls apart without Wes Bentley. Honestly.
Yeah.
Just because there's so little change in scene. You're just in a parking garage, right? There's so little things that change within the environment that really can like amplify it and make it any better. Like with a poor performance from another character in this movie would ruin it. So Wes Bentley, like, kudos for the performance he gives in this one. It makes the entire movie, in my opinion. So
it so does. And there's that one kill in the movie that is just so freaking brutal. I was like, holy shit, I did not expect that. But yeah, I had a blast with this one, and this one I can see being a Christmas tradition for me now from here on out.
Yeah.
And the next one, I found this one on Shudder, and it is called Red Christmas. And I think this was an Australian style horror film because I think the family is all living in Australia, but it stars Dee Wallace as the matron of the family, and she's having the rest of her family over for Christmas. And then someone shows up knocking on the door, just covered in rags and is wrapped up almost like a mummy. And you can barely understand what he's saying. You can tell he's kind of slow, but he starts talking about abortions, and Dee Wallace freaks out and kicks him out because of something that's happened to her, and she kicks him out of the house, and they do it in such a rude way that you feel bad for the guy, and then he just pretty much snaps and comes back and just starts killing. And the kills in this movie are very violent and pretty freaking awesome. The characters are all fucking hateable. I could not stand any of them. If there was a family like this family should never ever ever get together ever again, because this family was constantly at each other's throats.
Now, were they wearing masks? And were they socially distancing?
This was 2016, Heather. Before that was a
sorry.
But yeah, oddly enough, they totally were.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. I don't get it.
They were trendsetters, is what you're saying. Right?
But yeah, besides the just awful characters you could not get behind, the kills were really awesome. Kind of took offense to the way they treated someone who is slow. and like kind of how they exploited it a bit.
Yeah, I don't find it funny when we make fun of people with developmental delays anymore.
No,
I don't think that's funny. This time in this stage, it's not. It's low hanging fruit humor.
Right.
and it's
It
like they're not
really
even really
is,
making fun of them, but like they just kind of exploit. They're using like exploitation with it, and it just
okay.
it's just kind of like just rubbing me
Seems
the
like
wrong way.
yeah. Well, I've seen this movie as well. It just seems like it's in there for shock value and
Yeah.
nothing. Like there's no other. Which is like my biggest pet peeve is to throw something in the movie for shock value that really doesn't have any merit other than anything to just like push the envelope and be edgy. Like,
Yeah.
like I understand wanting to make me feel uncomfortable as a viewer, but like it has to make sense in some sort of way. And this one, it doesn't particularly do that. So
No. Now this one I wouldn't recommend. Like I'd say the kills are awesome. That's about it.
yeah.
And but yeah, like I just thought I'd bring this one up just to bring that, just kind of because I haven't heard many people talk about this one, so I just thought I'd bring it up.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's the end of our watch list, which was very extended, which I loved.
Absolutely. So we'll
Sorry.
get into
No, not
that's
at all.
good. It's
That's
good.
awesome.
We need to have expand and have culture after I talked about Santa's sleigh and
especially because our next episode we will not be doing any what we've been watchings.
No. You're just going to hear about our awards.
Yep.
So we will break into.
Do I get one?
Best guest award. Sorry, Tim.
And then
Sorry,
we have
Daniel.
best duo guest that we give to Horror for Dummies. We have
Yes.
2 awards for that. Everybody gets a medal.
Yep. Everyone wins.
We're very millennial that way. So what we've been listening to, I can see there's multiple podcasts here, so I will not give mine in just the in sake of time. I don't know who wrote what.
Oh, I can speed through mine pretty quick, so it's not
okay.
chill. Yeah.
So
but more so just plugs the things I like.
Oh, please plug. Please go ahead. And I'll just say mine for the next time anyway. It's fine.
Okay.
But Weekly Spooky?
Yes, Weekly Spooky. That's me. Weekly Spooky was started by Henrik Kudo, who is a wonderful independent filmmaker based out of Ohio. He's done comedies, westerns, like love stories, and horror. He's kind of done it all on basically a shoestring budget, but he's surrounded himself by some pretty cool people and actors. So his movies always have a certain charm to them. But he started this podcast where it's kind of like No Sleep. He reads stories and then adds in sound effects and reads all the characters, and they're about 45 minutes long. But I had recently gotten behind on the episodes, so I just basically marathoned them from like October, and he's got like lots of the independent writer stories on there. And it's just a fun little like, hey, you want to listen to a little short story? And he puts he does the voices and makes it theatrical. And it's just really cool for like an independent small one. But Weekly Spooky is super fun.
Where can you find it?
You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, at weeklyspooky.com, I believe, as well.
Awesome. So is it on Podcast Addict?
I'm not sure. I know it's on Stitcher and Podcatcher, and it's just about everywhere. So he's pretty savvy with all that.
Awesome. Well, we'll include in the show notes, or Scott will, because that's his job, links to the podcast. So we will include that. And
then the next one is Supernatural with Ashley Fowers. And I'm not like a true crime person, but this is technically a true crime podcast. But the catch on it is like they all have a supernatural element to it, like something really weird. Like they do an episode on like the Donner Pass. They do an episode about the Malaysian air flight that went missing. So like it goes through and like basically debunks all the like actual theories, and then goes through and is like, well, what else is left? Is it supernatural? Is it not supernatural? I don't know. But nonetheless, it's just super interesting stories about like some pretty cool shit. So it's almost like a weird history lesson of cool shit you probably never heard of. So highly
that sounds cool. Yeah, and same areas that we can find it: Spotify, Stitcher.
Yep, Spotify, Stitcher. That is is it a Gimlet? I think it's Gimlet Radio, maybe. It's the same girl that does true crime. So yeah, she's a great podcasting host. It's just interesting. I really find it really interesting. It's fun. And then the last one I'll talk about is one called Gaslight, and it is a short podcast. It's like 8 episodes or like 20 minutes a piece, and it's just a story. It stars Chloe Grace Moretz in it.
Oh, wow.
She's the main character. And it's about her disappearing from her family and her friends and then reappearing a few years later. And you slowly find out that she had gotten taken into a cult. And she's like reconnecting with her best friend, and like the story develops that way as she's like discussing with best friend. Very, very cool, very short, just a cool story, great production value. You could literally listen to it all in one day. So Gaslight is really rad. Check it out. It's everywhere as well.
I love the name. It sounds like it represents the podcast.
It
really
does.
well, actually.
It does. It's really
That's
cool.
clever.
Yeah,
That's
I
It's
absolutely
really clever.
It was cool. So.
Well, thank you for bringing these. These are different and we haven't heard of them. So we love to spread the love to other podcasts. So thank you so much. So I guess the last one is yours, Scott.
Yes, it is.
Oh, excellent.
Yep. This is one that I had to bring up because I've been thinking about it for a while, but I've been holding off because they hadn't released an episode in quite some time. And all of a sudden they have come back with a vengeance and like have been dropping episodes every couple of weeks. And that is the Hail Ming Power Hour with fellow Legion Legion Network podcasts. The main hosts are Ricky Morgan and Danny Bennett, and Ricky Morgan is just all over the place, has so many different podcasts that he's worked under. Was he Under My Wheels? I'd say like 5 others. Short Bus Cinema, and the Hail Ming Power Hour was like his main one that he did with Danny Bennett, and they pretty much just cover almost all sorts of just like different genres. They've covered Cube, they've covered Hail Ming.
Love that movie.
They've
Cube's a Canadian film.
Yes, it was.
I know.
And I meant to say not
Sanders
Hail
like,
Ming,
you don't need to tell me, Heather. I don't bring up fucking Slanted Slay, okay? Sorry, Scott.
You're all right. But yeah, I didn't mean to say Hail Ming. I meant to say Flash Gordon.
Oh, Flash Gordon, nice.
Hail Ming from. But yeah, they've covered like so many different films. They are funny as hell. They have these little skits like they go into a time machine and they use the time chicken, and you hear this like chicken squawking and all of a sudden you hear, like time machine noises, and they go back into the past to watch a movie.
I'm in it just for the chicken, so I'm in.
Time chicken, son of a bitch, I'm in.
It's hilarious because
I oddly want a time chicken T-shirt right now.
But yeah, like they just do a great job of reviewing, and they just have like some funny skits in here like throughout it as well. And I just can't help it but like follow the fun fake drama between Court Psyop and Ricky Morgan, because they'll like bash each other on each other's shows and like just talk shit back and forth, and it just keeps escalating more and more and more, and it's just hilarious because Ricky doesn't ever swear and Court's like foul mouthed, and
so that's really funny.
Oh, they are entertaining as hell. But yeah, highly recommend the Hail Ming Power Hour. They are finally back, and I am so happy to see that.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Scott and Xander, for bringing in the knowledge. I will save mine till the new year. It's some friends of ours from the Legion Podcast Network as well.
Oh, nice.
So we're going to take a brief break, and we're going to hear from one of our podcasting partners in crime, and then we'll be back with our main topic. So after these messages, we'll be right back.
Clytus, I'm bored. What plaything can you offer me today?
An obscure body in the SK system, Your Majesty. The inhabitants refer to it as the planet Earth.
How peaceful it looks.
Most effective, Your Majesty. Will you destroy this Earth?
Destroy it utterly.
Send Rick and Danny in Wool Rocket Ajax.
So, just destroy it?
That's what Ming said. Don't you ever listen?
Well, there's no arguing with Ming.
Hail Ming. Wait! You see those transmissions on the Visua screen?
Crow? Nightmare on Elm Street?
Chud 2? Black Belt Jones?
Nightbreed?
What's a critter?
Oh, I've seen those things.
Flash? I guess we could wait a while before the destruction.
Yeah, and watch the movies.
And talk about them.
The Hail Ming Power Hour. Disobedience to Ming. For now.
You can find us at Legion Podcast.
You can find us on Facebook.
iTunes.
We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram.
At www. You know what? Just Google it for yourself.
Just Google it, you bastages.
Hail Ming.
Breaking 2? Electric Boogaloo?
Samurai Cop?
Army of Darkness?
Flashdance?
We might destroy the planet if it's Flashdance.
Welcome back, everyone. As usual, we're going to go through 5 movies today that just reflect Christmas. So we're not going to do any academic articles on Christmas or the history of Christmas. I don't think anyone cares.
I think we all know what it is.
Ideally, it's about shopping, clearly.
Yes. Consumerism at its finest.
And Amazon Prime, which apparently is probably making billions of dollars this year, probably. But anyway, we will be going over a couple of movies, some very known and loved movies, and then a very special movie that we're going to that our guest brought in.
Special movie.
Yeah, Xander comes in and he's just showing Scott and I the way, and it's really we're learning now. So these are just movies that we felt represented Christmas or other things that we decided to include, and it's going to be a fun discussion. So as always, Scotty's going to take it away.
All right. So, since we are just going to be talking straight about the movies, we can just jump right into our first one because, as always, we're doing this in chronological order of when they were released. So, the first film on our list today is Christmas Evil from 1980. Originally titled You Better Watch Out, also known as Terror in Toyland. It is a 1980 American psychological slasher film written and directed by Lewis Jackson and starring Brandon McGart. And while not prosecuted for obscenity, the film was seized and confiscated in the UK under Section 3 of the Obscene Publications Act of 1959 during the Video Nasty Panic. The synopsis is, comical festive frights. A toy maker who revels in the Christmas spirit suffers a mental break when his work is met with hypocrisy and cynicism and goes on a Yuletide killing spree. It's a brief simple synopsis for this film because this is pretty much a character study of someone who character study, and it covers obsession and how far people will go with their obsessions. And I guess for this, kind of like we did when the Horror for Dummies was on, we'll just kind of go around and give our thoughts about it and see how we feel, if this is fits the Christmas theme or not, how it represents Christmas. And Xander, so I'll toss it to you real quick.
Ooh, start to me? Yeah, so this is actually the first time I had seen Christmas Evil. I haven't.
Oh, really?
I know the artwork. It's just kind of one of those that always slips through. And actually, when it came on and it said, the title screen says, "You better watch out," not Christmas Evil.
Yep.
So I was like, wait, did I turn on You Better Watch Out? Because that's what we're talking about later. But I was like, no, this ain't it. But yeah, it's the first time I'd seen it. And I will say, the main character, what is his name? Harry?
Yes.
Does a great man on the brink, performance here. When I was watching him, my brain kept going to Joe Spinell and Maniac, just this weird, nervous, kind of anxious guy. And then he gets in these weird, the creepiest thing in the movie to me was when he was humming Santa Claus Coming to Town at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just rocking back and forth and going fucking mad, essentially doing it. But he does a really great job of selling the crazy, and there's a lot of really cool small notes in here that I really liked. I thought it was hilarious when he got stuck in the chimney, he was really stressing the fuck out. And the whole at the point he's going around killing people and doing all the things, but he's it seems like he comes from a place of genuine care.
Yes.
But then he just takes it too far every single time. And it's just I think it's just super fun. And, he runs is a manager at a toy factory, and that comes into play within the story. And when he decides to become Santa and deliver gifts to the kids, which was kind of a weird thing. He obsesses over these kids at the beginning of the film, notating whether they're naughty or nice. And you don't really, I wasn't really familiar. I heard the film, but I wasn't familiar with it. I was like, okay, where the fuck does this movie go?
I think that's pretty much the message that Heather sent me. What the fuck are we watching?
Yeah, this is going to get really fucking intense and uncomfortable. And I see maybe this is why I have never seen this movie. You know what I mean? But all in all, I enjoyed that character a lot. I think he sells the whole movie. And once again, like we were talking about Wes Bentley earlier, I think without him, I don't think we have much of a movie. I absolutely love the ending. And I think there's one really interesting scene because he kind of becomes Santa, and then there's a standoff between parents and kids.
Yes.
I loved that aspect of the scene because, it's playing like how much you talk up Santa and how he's going to bring you good things. And then like all that talk of how positive and good he is in the movie, the kids believe in it. It just comes like to fruition. And it offers a really, really, really cool scene. And I actually enjoyed this way more than I thought I was going to. So
that is awesome. I had no idea this would be your first time watch, so that just makes me excited because I know this is Heather's first time watch as well.
And that's not surprising. Standard first time watch is surprising. Me, it's like, yeah, of course.
But yeah, let's get your thoughts on this, Heather.
The only thing that really throws me off in these movies is they always need to include some kind of sexual trauma that's not really a trauma. I at the beginning, he sees his dad, but he doesn't know it's his dad, dressed as Santa.
Yeah, hanging out down the
mother's leg.
Yeah, staring at the Dum Dum box.
Yeah, but that's all he does.
Yeah,
he just rubs her leg. Like, I'd be like, dude, you gonna fucking do something? Like, I don't have
right. It's weird. Like, you're looking through like her nightgown and presumably has other things. Like, you're just literally staring at her nightgown, rubbing her leg.
And she has like obviously the very sexy leggings that you would put on to wear like a corset or something. And I just find this weird that they seem to do this thing in the 80s, early 80s or late 70s, where they just had to throw weird sex shit in there, that somehow the trauma of him seeing his dad, not knowing it was his dad, dressed as Santa, and Santa engaging in what could be seen as naughty behavior.
Yeah.
I did that in quotations because this is audio. That threw me off at the beginning. I felt like that was throwaway and wasn't needed for the story.
Well, I will say, like, a lot of these, so in this particular era, when you're talking about like mid 70s through like mid to late 80s, there was a huge bonus to making a horror movie that you could play on like the 42nd Street circuit, like where they played all the sleazy exploitation stuff. And like a lot of these horror movies knew that if they could get like some sort of sexual, like you were just saying, in there to make it a little more edgy, a little more like palatable for the crew that would come hang out at these theaters down on 42nd Street and wherever else in New York where the sleazy stuff went on. And when sleazy stuff went on there, and if word word of mouth had caught on, like people would come see this movie. So there's a lot of movies, horror movies specifically within that kind of era that just kind of do that. And that's kind of the point, because we'll eventually get to Silent Night, Deadly Night. And that was the thing that was also playing in that era of horror movies. But yeah, that's my educated guess of why.
Well, that's a very good educated guess and makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Right, distribution, right? If I can get my film in more places, I can make money.
Because
right?
Those theaters were hot back then. I mean, that was their, that was easy money. People were making movies for next to nothing, and quadrupling what they made over and over again. So
absolutely, and it's what we want to see, right? Like, we got to remember our human brains do enjoy to some point, which is why we have the existence of pornography. Right. We like to see this stuff. But back to the Christmas, I guess.
Ever since we've been able to hold a camera, we've had that. So.
Absolutely. Right. We should do another episode on that. That'd be an interesting Friday Nightmares. Just looking at that. No, looking at the sex exploitation in horror films, right?
Oh,
like it's definitely not porn. We could do that too. But like it's still the same horror porns. We could find all those on Pornhub. Yeah. Or other places. But I really did feel like they did represent Christmas well. The Christmas trees, him being a toy maker, I thought was really, and being so much like, oh, the children. And you'd think he's going to be this creep, and he really isn't. He's just this man that really believes in this Christmas spirit, and other people kind of put him down and are not kind to him. And
like even his younger brother. Like he's just like so sick of how he's acting and resentful. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I just, that opening scene, I felt like, which what you're saying makes sense. It just didn't time to the rest. Like, that opening scene could have been completely changed, and it wouldn't change the rest of the story for me. Right. Like he was just really passionate about Santa, and kind of almost felt like the Christmas spirit had been lost. This was almost a movie of like losing the Christmas spirit, but no, you didn't. I'm going to hack all you motherfuckers up.
And I'm going to paint my van with a sled on it.
Yeah. really, you bought into Harry. I really think he did a really good job of just kind of being this sweet man who believed in Christmas, and everything was Christmas. Like, there were Christmas decorations everywhere.
Like his whole house was decked out Christmas, and I don't think it was just for the Christmas time. I bet his house is decked out like that all year round.
Right.
Yeah, maybe. Right.
Well, because the first scene you see him is him at home on Thanksgiving Day. So this movie essentially takes place from Thanksgiving Day all the way to Christmas.
Yeah, it covers about a month, right?
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. And what I really appreciate about this movie is it was very dialogue heavy. And I felt like I really got to know Harry. I really got to understand his brother's frustration with him, the kids liking him. And that showdown, I agree with you, Xander, between the kids with Santa. And I never thought the kids were at risk. I didn't think he was ever going to hurt them.
And they saw that from the beginning, like, because he cared. You think he genuinely cares.
Right. But the adults, so you could tell he was just done with. And that fucking dick at the factory that gets him to work for him and he's in the bar making fun of him. What an asshole.
Yeah. Everybody at that factory was an asshole, though.
They were, right?
That's what drives his hate, question mark?
Yep.
Yeah. Or anger. I just felt like this could have been, you take out the gore and you take out, like, obviously murder and shit. I'm like, this could have been a fucking Christmas story. Like, this could have been like remembering the true meaning of Christmas. Well, depending on what you believe. I'm glad you chose this one, Scott. Like, I really do think it represented Christmas.
Yeah, because this is the one. Because I had watched this once again. This was one that I was introduced to when I was on the Horror Drunks, because we did this for our Christmas episode and Randall had chosen it, and I watched it back then and went, "Holy crap! This is really just a really good movie." Like, and it is like, it does represent Christmas. And like, it had been a couple years and I'd rewatched it and I remember enjoying it. And I think it's about 5 years since the last time I had seen it. Rewatched it again. It is a bit slow. I will have to give everybody a warning there. It is a very slow.
Yeah, but that's the 80s.
Yeah.
I'll say
it's slow paced, but there's a reason for it, for this film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like you get a few little hints on this character that are like, okay, this guy, what's up here? I think they keep you interested just enough to be willing to sit through it all.
Yeah, because it's purposely just slow because it's all about character development with Harry, and just watching what he goes through and giving you an understanding of who he is as a character, and like just pretty much watching his descent into mental breakdown.
Yeah.
But I completely agree with you guys. Like, he would not harm not a single living child. He would put them on naughty lists, but he wouldn't do anything. He would just not get them a gift.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
But like, it does give you that creep factor though in the beginning, because you are seeing him just kind of like creepily watching kids with binoculars through, like, on his balcony, just like watching them in their home, and you're going, "What the fuck?"
Lines he gives, like, "You're a good girl." Right?
You're a good girl, Elizabeth. Moss, looking at Penthouse.
But we're also watching it with 2020 eyes, right?
Yes, right?
I think if we were watching this back in the 80s, we wouldn't have even gone there, or maybe we would have. I don't know. I wasn't old enough in the 80s to really comment. I was born 1980s. I think but it does come across as he's like borderline creepy, and you realize he's not. But yeah, I didn't understand it at first when I first started watching it, and as we went through it, I was like, okay, I get why Scott chose this. Yes, it is not a typical slasher. I think we should remove, I think they should remove slasher, because I don't think this is a slasher.
No, not at all. Like, and even the cover is very, like, the cover to it is kind of misleading in a way.
Yeah,
it is actually. It is,
because it almost reminds me of what our next movie is, more than what that movie itself was.
Oh, and the last thing I will say about Christmas Evil is the music also follows the weird moments within the movie. So like they do this really cool thing where like you have Christmas music, right? And you have the iconic notes of, I can't remember, like Santa Claus is coming to town or whatever. And then they'll go to like a little heavier, darker scene, and it's the same notes from that song, but they like drop it down a key, so it's like very doom sounding.
Yes,
which was really cool touch. I thought that was a really great touch. So.
Yeah, and the song was Santa's watching. Santa's.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
They played it over and over again. It got stuck in my head the rest of the day after I'd watched it that day.
Scott's walking around the office. Santa's watching. Santa's waiting.
But yeah, I'm glad you guys dug this movie because
Heck yeah, it was
watching
great.
it, it's still like right up there as a good Christmas horror film. So we can jump into the next one, and I'm sure Xander has seen this one. But this is Silent Night, Deadly Night from 1984. It is a 1984 American slasher film directed by Charles E. Sellier Jr. and starring Robert Brian Wilson, Lillian Chauvin, Gilmer McCormick, Tony Nero, Linnea Quigley, Britt Leach, and Leo Geter. The film was released by TriStar Pictures on November 9th, 1984, where it received substantial controversy over its promotional material and content, which featured a killer Santa Claus. In addition to receiving negative reviews, it was pulled from theaters a week after its release. However, it was such a success during its opening week, it ended up grossing $2.5 million on a budget of $750,000. Since its release, it has developed a cult following and spawned a series consisting of 4 sequels, with the 4th and 5th installments having no connection to the original film, as well as a loose remake in 2012. The story concerns a young man named Billy who suffers from post-traumatic stress over witnessing his parents murdered on Christmas Eve by a man disguised as Santa Claus and his subsequent upbringing in an abusive Catholic orphanage. In adulthood, the Christmas holiday leads him into a psychological breakdown and he emerges as a spree killer donning a Santa suit. So, since Heather this is a first time watch for you, I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I was sad through 90% of this film.
Like, poor Billy.
Yeah, honestly, I had saved it to this year. This was my first time.
Congratulations.
And thanks, guys. I was really nervous, but I made it work. Wow. The opening scene, or the opening, I shouldn't say the opening scene.
It's like the opening 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like 15,
It really gets to you. The only beef I had was with the killer, the guy. Like, he went from robbing a store to committing homicide and almost rape I just felt like that was a very dramatic step to take.
Well, he killed the guy in the convenience store too.
Yeah, and I didn't think that was necessary either. Like, he was just going in to rob him, and I just think that he probably would have got the money and fled. Or run away when the gun was there. Like, it just seemed a little dramatic to me, but you know what? You need that for the story, so I can forgive it. Like, it really isn't that big of a deal. I do think the family atmosphere is great. The meeting with the creepy grandfather.
It's creepy as fuck, right?
And I don't know what his ailment was, but it was
just catatonic from what?
It was just catatonic.
I do have to bring up in that scene, what a wonderful father, though. They go to visit Grandpa. They, end up leaving poor Billy alone with the catatonic grandfather.
No, right. He hasn't spoken in years. You'll be fine, son.
Just stay here. We'll be right back. We got to sign some paperwork. They come back and they're going, okay, it was nice visiting you, Grandpa. They were there for like 10 minutes. They're like, oh, see you later. We just drove hours here to see you.
It was like a 4-hour drive to be there for 10 minutes.
To sign some paperwork in the 1984s. Well, they didn't have faxes then, I guess. Right. They weren't working as well, and you couldn't email. But, like, of course, his grandfather doesn't turn to him. He's like, oh, Billy, how are you? He's like, you're going to die. But I felt like that opening scene really did set the tone. And when he's in the orphanage, oh my God, the little kid that they had play him looked like he was going to be an asshole, but he wasn't. Right. He was like the sweetest child.
He was broken.
Yeah. And when and of course, now that makes sense when you talked about that couple having sex. I'm like, who are they? Like, is she a nun that works there and she's just like forsaken her vows now and is banging this dude? Like, who are these people having sex in the convent or the orphanage? But now what you discussed earlier, that makes a lot of sense. It would have got the film to play in different areas, right?
Yep. Yeah. And there is a lot of sleaze sex style stuff in this film.
It's very sleazy.
Absolutely. And I guess, you look at sin, right? Like, there is also that, sin, naughty. And then, like, this fucking bitch makes him sit on Santa Claus' lap.
Yeah.
What person would
take her? She sucks. Mother Superior, go to hell.
Yeah. Mother Superior, after she knows exactly what happened to Billy's parents, like, this is a good idea.
And
it's
you can
still
be a
tell.
Tough one. This is so long ago, because that shit never would fly in 2020 ever, right? Like, it's just, or I don't think it would have flew in the 90s either. But it was a great tie-in to kind of just reinforce. So I thought, and he's also really grateful when he gets his Christmas present. This kid gets locked up in his bedroom and he comes down and they each get one Christmas present, and like he's the sweetest little kid. And what I really appreciate about this film, and I feel like Sleepaway Camp did this well too, there may be an antagonist, it's an antagonist, but you don't really feel like they're an antagonist because you're kind of you get it.
Yeah,
you're
everything
like, you know
that they've
what?
been through.
Yeah,
I'd be probably fucked up too.
So I think there's like a 4-year gap between the incident on the road and before he's at the orphanage for roughly 4 years. And I think they really sell the idea that he's been kind of isolated. Like he doesn't talk, he's not like the other kids. He's not a bad kid. He just doesn't do what they want him to do. So your heart really kind of breaks for him because like
it's like she wants him to be normal. And there's a kind of a throwaway line where the one sister says to the Mother Superior, you know, he's just bad around Christmas time. Like obviously, because of the trauma he experienced, right? And she's like, he will sit on Santa Claus's lap. I'm like,
you watch, he will be fine.
Right? My ways will work. The one scene I did laugh out loud at is when, you know, I guess it's like 15 years later or 10 years later, whatever. She goes to the store to get him a job, right? One of the sisters, a sister that he seems to get along with. And he's like, oh, I don't want anyone. I need someone super strong. And then like Billy comes in the scene and Billy's been hitting the fucking gym and, you know, eating his protein and shit because he's fucking ripped.
Yeah, he's all of a sudden blonde hair and blue eyes, right?
He's like super smoking hot. I'm like, where did they get?
And before he had like red hair and freckles. When he was
and it's funny because they even like he was like, I don't need no 16-year-old boy here. And then Billy comes out and you're going, that boy is not 16.
No, I think she said 18. Did she say 18?
No, he turns 8. He's 18 by the time everything happens.
Yeah. Okay. And like they have the montage of him working away and the music in the background, and he's drinking milk. Like they offer him booze, and he's like, "No, I got my milk." Like it's just, I thought that was really cute. I'll be honest, that endeared me to him even more. Like you just feel so bad for this kid, and you're like, okay, finally he's somewhere where he can like make friends, and he's making friends with that girl, and you can tell he likes her, but he's so fucked up from what Mother Superior told him about sex that and then, you know, it changes. He snaps and they get him to become Santa.
Yeah, I was gonna say they force him to wear a fucking Santa suit and just instant trauma right there.
And I can't remember, what was the incident that pushed him over? Was it watching her be sexually assaulted?
Yes.
By the shitty dude in the back room. That was, that's what made him, because they do a flashback scene of what had happened when he was a child.
Yeah, watching what happened to his mother.
I just wasn't sure if I missed something else.
No, he's imagining Santa on top of his mother.
Right.
When he's on top of the other girl. So that's the snap.
And he just like, at first you think he's just going to fucking off the dude. And you're like, fuck yeah, right? Like, and then you realize that's not the case.
No, well, she starts freaking out and like saying like, how dare you? And just like, just kind of like just trying to shame him for protecting her.
Yeah.
Well, I think she was shocked that, in all fairness, he just murdered someone in front of her. I would probably be upset too.
I think I would probably just went like, thank you. Oh, shit. I'm going to just leave now.
Oh, yeah. I think her reaction was more reality of how someone would probably
Do you know if you guys watched a version that had all the scenes edited back in that was cut previously? Okay.
Yeah, because you can tell like it has like a VHS look when they added them back in.
Because this movie has like one of the most iconic kills in like slasher history.
Antlers.
In it.
Oh, the antler kill, yeah.
And it's fantastic. And part of that scene was cut out from the first, the original release. Like that was much more gruesome with these versions that Anchor Bay released a dual DVD set with Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Silent Deadly Night 2. And then the Scream Factory release that just recently came out like a year or so ago has it all edited back in and polished back up. So
because
I highly recommend seeking those. If you want DVD, seek out the Anchor Bay version. Or
Blu-ray, definitely check out on Scream Factory.
or the blue. Yeah. So if you want to see it, that to me, those are the ones you have to watch.
Yeah, because I think you watched this on Plex, Heather?
I did, yes.
Yep, so you get to see the exact same thing because you and I watched the same one.
And yeah, like his downfall, the kills are great. I did enjoy how, my favorite scene is when they're driving to the orphanage and the cop shot Santa, but it was the wrong Santa.
It was the
and
father.
Like, why didn't he say anything? The father is deaf and mute. Like I thought that was or no, he was just deaf, so he couldn't hear them calling out his name. I thought that was the best throw-in line to justify the shooting.
So in this movie, there's no there's no holding back on calling out special needs because they say that about him. And then also the school of children is the school of retarded children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 1984 at its finest, right?
Yeah. And the cops,
right?
and I did like that scene you were talking about, Heather, where they shot the other Santa. Like, the dude, like, they're like, all right, let's traumatize some more children and shoot Santa in front of all these kids. It's like, oh my
kids,
god,
watch this.
Right?
It's wild.
And of course, when he shows up where the antler kill is at the house, and the two are having sex on the billiard table, and the whole time watching that, I used to play a lot of billiards or pool or whatever, and I was like, that would be so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
like it looks hot, that wouldn't be hot. You'd be like scratchy, and you'd be like,
yeah, you'd be getting burns all over that felt carpet, felt material.
It feels hot, but it doesn't feel hot. Like,
that's right. That's right. But it definitely gives a Christmas vibe, like hands down. And the sled scene, I finally saw the sled scene. I just feel like this movie had some awesome kills and scenes put in that were so Christmassy. And of course, he's wearing like a Santa suit and the whole, mall or store thing. Like it was just really good. I don't know what else you guys want to add. I've said all I
no, like I agree with everything. Like, it's great. It's sleazy, and which is like, this is like the first sleazy Christmas movie I ever saw.
Yeah,
like, I was like, whoa, what the fuck? But it's great. It holds up still. I actually like most of the sequels. Second one I don't care for as much, but then 3, 4, and 5 are good in my opinion.
I like the half hour of new footage you get from part 2.
Right. Garbage day.
It's just so stupid and dumb, but it's just, oh my god, it's such bad acting.
Absolutely.
Oh my god.
But yeah, like, and this is required. I think this is required, like, holiday viewing if you haven't seen it. Like, it just really is. And I mean, even if you don't like it, I think it holds a placeholder in holiday horror.
Yes, so. Absolutely. Because and the one thing we didn't really, I mean, we talked about it, but I just gotta say, I think it's just really unique that you kind of watch Billy as a child growing up and just the continuous trauma that he's put through. But like, you don't see that in a lot of horror films, watching like a child become an adult. And I think that was kind of a really neat take for especially the slasher, because it does not feel like a slasher for like the first half of the film, and then the last half of the film kicks in and you're going, all right, this is where it becomes like the full-blown slasher film.
Yep, found it.
Yep. And it's just fantastic. And yeah, like, I agree, it covers Christmas darkly, but it covers Christmas and has a Christmas representation to it. But speaking of representation of Christmas, let's jump into Xander's pick and see what we have thoughts on this one.
Yeah,
so we'll do the. I'll try to read this and see if I can pronounce everybody's names without butchering them. So we got.
Go right ahead.
The movie is El Dia de la Bestia from 1995, also known as The Day of the Beast. It is a 95 Spanish black comedy horror film co-written and directed by Alex de la Iglesia, starring Alex Angulo, Armando Di Raza, and Santiago Segura. Both Mario Grazia Cusinota and El Gran Wyoming have small roles in the film as well. The film was well received by critics and audiences in its country and sparked interest in De la Iglesia's filmography and style of directing. A brief synopsis that I could find online, because like it's very, very short, but a heavy metal fan and a psychic help a priest seek the infant Antichrist in Madrid at Christmas Day. Oh boy. So we had some issues with this one because Heather was not able to find a copy that actually had subtitles.
No. She got to visually watch it, and I think that might have been
learned
enough.
Italian.
Yeah.
I'm fluent now.
Yeah, so I'm Xander, this was your pick, so
absolutely
see what your thoughts.
Full disclosure, Alex de la Iglesia is one of my favorite directors of all time. This dude is a incredible filmmaker. He's all of his quirks are in this, and they get better when you get into his later films. He directed The Last Circus, The Bar, Witching and Bitching. He has this really
that was his film?
Yeah, those are all his films.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, so those are all his films. And he has this like really great ability to like insert like odd humor at the most like inconvenient times, right? But he also has a great eye for the camera and whatnot. But this film is is basically a priest finds out, he deciphers a code, and he realizes that the devil, or the beast, which is also the devil, is going to come up on Christmas Eve. And he's trying to convince people around him that I need your help to find out where he's going to spawn so we can kill him. And the priest is like, the only way I can make this happen is if I like accept evil. So this God-fearing man decides to be evil and basically be an asshole the whole movie and hurt people and stab people and steal things and refuse to pay. Like just be like kind of a shitty person, but the way he does it, he's like so meek, and like he's the meek mannered like priest that you would expect. Like he's very soft spoken. He's like,
yeah, he's just trying so hard to sin.
He's like, I'm not going to pay for that. You're like, okay. And he befriends like this really, I love this relation. The relationships in this movie to me are fantastic. He like befriends a dude in a metal shop.
Yes.
And like they get this idea that music is going to like summon the beast and summon Satan. So he's looking for like records and to play them backwards so they can help summon Satan so that he can kill Satan and save the world. And it's like this weird, quirky friendship and how they chase it. And like the priest is so genuine about like, oh, I got to do this shitty thing, save the world. It's fine. It's very comical. But then it's slow going and building, but he keeps you constantly interested. This film doesn't particularly scream Christmas at all, with the exception of one scene, and it happens on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, because I think the one scene that I can remember was when they run through someone else's apartment and the little girl is thinking that it's Santa Claus, and she's watching like a commercial on TV with Santa in it.
Yeah. So the whole movie just plays out.
One of the stores has Christmas decorations in the window. When you don't understand what's going on, there's no subtitles. You really pay attention to the background. And I would like to mention there was some excellent Christmas decorating that occurred in this film.
Yeah. So
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. So you're just
that's because you were too busy reading the subtitles.
So true.
You could do both, Heather. It's not that hard.
Did you notice the Christmas decorations, Xander? No,
I did. So it's just this like it's this kind of aloof group of people, and they eventually like befriend like a TV psychic that is full of shit,
which is awesome. That's an awesome scene.
And then he realizes, oh shit, this crazy priest might actually be talking about something, and they wind up doing acid with virgin blood, and like it gets so fucking weird. But it stays funny. It's highly entertaining, and I cannot like praise this movie enough. Alex de la Iglesia to me is a fucking genius, and I can't wait to hear what Old Smoke Show thinks here and get Heather's interpretation without words. But I will say it doesn't feel all that Christmassy, and it kind of is a little horror light, even though it picks up stronger in the end. It's more of just a weird story, black comedy that eventually gets to horror, but that's only in the last like 15. But great film.
Heather, do you want to go next, or do you want me to go next?
You go. I'll save the best for last.
All right. So yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you, Xander. This, especially the relationship between the metal dude and the priest. It's like they build such a good like bond with each other and chemistry. The friendship is there. Like you even get to like just chill there, like when he's chilling with his mother and his naked grandfather is just walking around the house all the time. Like you see him give his naked grandfather like metalhead dude give his naked grandfather acid just because he's just old and doesn't care anymore, and
he's like, it helps him get through the day. It's fine.
It's like just some of the like this is the part that saddens me that Heather couldn't watch it with subtitles because the dialogue is freaking hilarious in some of these scenes. But man, it is such a bizarre film. Like I didn't realize I forgot Iglesia did Witching and Bitching, because that movie was just so entertaining and so makes sense now. Like thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, these movies are perfect together.
Right.
But yeah, that's I just had a blast with this. It was frustrating, I will have to admit, trying to watch it on Tubi, because unfortunately my roommate was downloading something the entire time while he was gone, and it sucked up my internet. So the hour and 40-minute movie took me about 2 hours and 20 minutes to get through. Ooh. Yeah, because it just kept buffering and just like I was
what
like,
was he downloading?
He was Cyberpunk.
Oh, okay.
So massive game.
Yeah, wow.
And yeah, like it was just sucking up the internet. But man, that it was a chore because especially the commercials just like took forever to get through like onto because of that. But I can't say that's not against the film because the film had some slow parts, but at the same time kept you invested. And like, each character they introduced was entertaining and unique in their own right. And when you get all three, the psychic, the metalhead, and the priest together, like it's just the comedy from that is great, and like their interactions between each other.
The casting is always great in his films. Like the characters the actors that he puts in place are next level, which is one of the reasons why he's one of my favorite. Like I literally, absolutely, I will watch anything this guy ever makes, hands down.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking back for some of his other filmography now, like that I have not seen.
Yeah, The Bar is on Netflix, and The Last Circus is, I don't know where it is now. It was.
Yeah, I have seen The Last Circus too, because I completely forgot. That's why I watched Witching and Bitching, because I seen Last Circus and I found out, oh, this guy did that. Okay.
Same guy.
Yeah, so so I've seen 3 of his movies now. Yeah,
he's got many more. He's got many more.
But yeah, then I do love that third act where the horror does start to ramp up, and you get like the silly looking CGI goat demon walking around at the end.
Basically Black Phillip in circa 1995.
Yeah, but if I'm remembering correctly, it had like a flopping penis too. But yeah, this was just a all-around fun film. Yeah, it mentions Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and like you see some
Christmas decorations.
Yeah, I'll say and some Christmas decorations. It definitely is probably when it comes to the Christmas feeling, the least Christmas feeling,
which is strange
of all of our films.
Because as soon as it starts off, like the thing says on Christmas Eve, blah blah blah. Like it starts off immediately, like, oh, we're gonna be like Christmas heaven, and it's like, no, not at all.
Yep, exactly. But like this film though I recommend it. It's just it was a lot of fun and it was highly entertaining. And now I want to get Heather's visual interpretation of the film.
Well, first of all, this is very much a Christmas film, and I think you're wrong. Because this is about Christ, the Antichrist, and Jesus is the reason for the season.
Fair enough. Valid point.
So, you know what? Santa is not always Christmas, guys.
A fair point.
I actually like this movie. I liked it more than Castle Freak, and it was in a different language. Because I thought even with watching it and not verbally understanding it, what I did go back and do is I read the Wikipedia plot summary.
Okay.
And that helped a lot because I was able to look back to scenes in, like, I have a pretty good memory that if I watch something and I read something afterwards, I can try to match it up. And I'm like, this would have been funny with the subtitles because there was parts really I even laughed without knowing what was going on because there was just funny shit that was happening on the screen, like like the drugs and the grandfather and like the goat. Like there was just shit that was funny that you didn't need the translation or even the TV psychic and his like stupid commercials. Like,
and that's great filmmaking.
Exactly, and that shows you what you can do with the language barrier, right? That I could still read expressions, I could still understand what. I didn't get the full plot, obviously. But when I read it, I could look back and go, oh, okay, that's what that meant. Okay, that's what they meant. That's what they were doing. So is this Christmas like done up like what we expect in North American Christmas? No. But maybe this is representative of what Christmas is like in other parts of the world. Maybe they don't over dress up shit everywhere.
This is very true.
Yeah, and maybe that's how it is. And really, when you're talking about, depending what you believe, Christmas was supposed to be the birth of Christ. So if we're looking at the birth of the Antichrist, that's pretty connective to it. So I hope to one day find the subtitled version in Canada.
It is available on Blu-ray, so
I could buy it. I don't know if I'm that in love with it.
Or we could see if our good friend could get it on his Plex for you.
If someone owns it and could upload it for me on their Plex, that would be great.
Yeah.
So I could watch it.
Or you could just buy it and support it, Heather. I don't see the fucking problem here.
I know. I'm sorry, Xander. I'm a bad person.
And
you pissed off Roxy.
I know. Roxy's like, I'm not down with this illegal shit.
And actually, and Heather, I recommend if you can do it, also find Witching and Bitching and Last Circus.
Look, I'm gonna have to buy all this shit now, so Xander doesn't judge me. I'm gonna be like,
The Bar is on Netflix.
Hopefully it's on Canadian Netflix.
Hopefully it's on.
Probably fucking not. Who knows?
Who knows, right? We don't get all the movies.
I get it. You guys don't deserve Alex de la Iglesias. It's fine.
That's true. We haven't earned it yet. Really, that's what this comes down to. We haven't earned it yet. But I can comment on the filmmaking. It was excellent. You can tell that this director knows what they're doing.
I would, if I ever was to teach a course at any university, like I would teach it about him probably.
Yeah.
That'd be
and there's a reason why.
Yeah.
You know, so I think if you like black comedies, I think if you are more of like religious, I think you may find this funny because it maybe if you would say, hey, yeah, this is how Christmas is in other parts of the world. It's just North America where you guys, you know, put tinsel on everything.
Right.
You know, maybe that's just an us thing. So, but I enjoyed it. So thank you for bringing something different, Xander, to
You're very
the table.
welcome.
Yeah, thank you for this one.
I hopped at the chance to bring my favorite director on. Like I knew this was a movie of his, but I wasn't aware that it had any sort of Christmas like reference. So when I was digging, I was like, I don't want to pick anything. So I was like digging hard. I was like, oh fuck, this one is? Are you kidding me? So
you've definitely expanded our audience's like knowledge. I feel
like
so.
That's what I was hoping.
Next episode, you're not going to be on.
Well, listen to you guys' show, and I know what you guys talk about, and I was like, oh man, I really genuinely tried to bring different things today that would open everybody's viewing habits.
You really have, and you came with the knowledge. Like, I don't know, Scott and I are going to be like in January, like, so I really like this movie.
You say that good. Now until on the Facebook group, they're like, "Will you fucking tell Xander to shut the fuck up?"
Who does that guy think he is? What is this Academy Award critique?
Though I do have to say, this will show you how much research that goes into the Friday Nightmares podcast when all of a sudden we're talking about Alex de Iglesias, and I had no freaking clue that I had watched 2 of his other movies before, because that's how much research I did. That's how prepped I am.
Well, you know, this was our Christmas. We were just taking it easy, Xander. We knew you were coming on.
To be fair, any other director, I probably wouldn't have known, but like you know, you have your guys, right? This is one of my faves, so like.
Right. Well, and the sad thing is, when I was writing out all the information on paper, I'm like, Iglesias, that sounds familiar. Like Alex de Iglesias, that sounds familiar. Just I could have easily went to IMDb. My ass just was being lazy, and I didn't.
You're too busy with your OnlyFans and all your ladies.
True.
Like, Scott, we all know what you're doing, and your Gremlins calendar. So like, yes. You're just too. You got.
Hey, we all love the Gremlins calendar. Let's not. Right? We all love the Gremlins calendar.
I'm glad everyone else
does.
Does.
What's going to come out of the calendar?
I don't know, but next year somebody's got to find a fucking Critters one to give them.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, that'd be amazing.
So for all of the women out there that are competing for Scott's affection, listening to our show, can you
make a Critters advent calendar for him next year, and you will win his heart forever.
Yes.
There you go. It's like The Bachelor, and I can be that friend that consults him at the end that comes on and is like,
it's not a rose. He hands out a crate at the end of it.
Yes.
Here's your crate.
Yes. Oh my God, that'd be amazing. So we could just jump on to our final film of the evening for our main topic.
Whoa! It's not our final film.
Wait, yeah, it is.
No, better watch out. And
oh, yeah. Okay, never mind.
You fucker.
I missed one.
Look, I know you're trying to rush through this, Scott, but don't worry, we'll make it quick.
Not trying to rush that much. I completely slipped my mind. But all right, the next film on our episode is going to be, I don't know. I don't think anyone has heard of this movie at all. But it's this little known title known as Krampus from 2015.
The good Krampus.
What, not Mrs. Claus or Krampus Claus or whatever those are out there now?
The return of Krampus. The revenge of Krampus.
But Krampus is a 2015 American Christmas comedy horror film based on the eponymous character from Austro-Bavarian folklore, written and directed by good old Michael Dougherty, known for Trick or Treat, and co-written by Todd Casey and Zach Shields. The film stars Adam Scott, Toni Collette, David Kushner, Allison Tolman, Conchetta Farrell, MJ Anthony, Stefania Levy, Owen, Lola Owen, Queenie Samuel, Maverick Flack, Sage Hoonfield, and Krista Stadler. Woo, that was a lot of names.
You did it.
In the film, a dysfunctional family squabbling causes a young boy to lose his festive spirit. Doing so unleashes the wrath of Krampus, a fearsome horned demonic beast in ancient European folklore who punishes naughty children at Christmas time. As Krampus lays siege to the neighborhood, the family must band together to save one another from a monstrous fate. Krampus was released in the U.S. on December 4th of 2015 by Universal Pictures. It received mixed to positive reviews, with many critics praising Scott and Colette's performances, the horror elements, and humor, while its tone, pacing, and final twist ending received criticism. The film had grossed over $61 million against a $15 million budget. All right, so this one is kind of like Michael Dougherty it did with for like Halloween feeling films with Trick or Treat. I personally think he nailed this as a Christmas film. Like, and since Xander is our guest, I will pass it on to you and get your opinions on Krampus.
Yeah, so I think you're 100% right with Dougherty nailing down Christmas. And the reason I say that is because, like, so the things you think of on Christmas are cold, snow, right?
Yep.
You think of family, you think of eating, and you think of gift giving, right? And all these things are very strong in this particular film. I absolutely adore Toni Collette, like one of my favorite actresses of all time. No matter what she does, I will see it. I love that she's been dabbling her feet into horror the last few years and being able to go from horror back to other big movies and all of that. Like Hollywood is respecting the fact that she can bounce back and forth. She's an amazing actress. I will watch anything she's in.
Yes, she is just phenomenal. Doesn't any movie she's in.
She's great, but the casting as a whole, and I would like to say Aunt Dorothy, played by Conchita, rest in peace, passed away this year.
Yes.
So, you know, kudos to her. She's wonderful in this movie. This is filled with great characters from top to bottom. Even the kids are great. I love, you know, it just captures winter and holiday the whole time. And I love how it bounces back from being really dark and kind of doomy to being kind of cheesy and almost Killer Clowns from Outer Space kind of humor, right? Like when all the toys come out, you're like, oh, this is super silly, but it's kind of fucking terrifying at the same time. And I just think like he handles all those things so well. I absolutely love the dark elves are awesome.
Like the Krampus version of elves. It's so freaking cool.
Yeah, and I love how he paces it at the beginning where you just kind of see like the little shadows of him kind of running around. And there's all these mysteries of like, oh, the snowman just appeared randomly in the yard. Oh, this bag of gifts just appeared randomly in the front door. And they're like, oh, that's how they introduced the Krampus monsters or whatever to get into the house to wreak havoc. I love how it's all pieced together. The film does slow at some point within the movie, but at the end of the day, I think this thing is solid from beginning to end. I think there's not many films that really encompass Christmas as much as this one does. Like to me, of all the ones we watched, this is the one that screams and yells Christmas all day long throughout the whole movie. And I think at this point, this has honestly become one of the classics. This is a modern day classic, right? Like this is, to me, Krampus is what Halloween is to Halloween. Like it really, truly is, because it took all the things we had in Christmas movies before, and it really just amplified it and made a great film with, it had a lot of money put into it, which is a huge benefit, which a lot of these Christmas horror movies don't get that. So there's plenty of money put into it, amazing actors, and a great director in Michael Dougherty. And I think this thing is one of the best Christmas horror films that you could ever watch. Like there's not many better than this one. So
I'm completely agree with you. I'm gonna toss this to Heather though, because this was one of her picks, which I'm glad she did. But Heather, your thoughts on Krampus?
Well, originally I wanted to watch this when I was still married, and my ex-husband refused to watch it, and that's what really led to my divorce.
Nice.
Was it Krampus or was it Adam Scott?
It was definitely Krampus. But this movie also represents the legend of Krampus really, really well. And I really want to give it props for that. I think Krampus in this is presented in a way that is scary, but almost gives you a lesson. There's a big moral lesson throughout this, right? And the grandmother in her role is exceptional, and some even great lines where she's speaking, I believe it's in Hungarian. Is it Hungarian?
I think it might be German.
Yeah, I think it's German. It's German.
Yeah. And then she switches to English, and they're like, English, I knew it. Like there's little lines like that were thrown in that were just funny. Like
Yeah.
they were, or all right, kids, we're gonna make some peppermint schnapps. Like just funny shit that she threw in. The dinner table conversation, or even when they come in as a family from the pageant and the opening scenes of showing people at the mall and the fighting, really shows how North America has diluted what the quote unquote meaning of Christmas is.
Yep.
Basically, not to get too deep here, but consumerism and this need to do all these things, right, and to have the best and to be the best. And the family discussion over the dinner table reminded me of very much of Home Alone. Remember when they all get the pizza and they fight and Kevin gets sent out to his room,
Right.
and it kind of reminded me of a little bit of that, only much dire consequences. And yeah, I agree. The slow buildup of the monsters, the slow picking off of the family members, and the comedy, like the little gingerbread man and shit. Like it was
love the gingerbread men.
And the dog eating the one gingerbread man. Like you almost wonder if they're going to make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I akin it to like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, because it's so funny and kind of dumb, but you can't help but like it.
Yes.
Yeah. And they give the illusion. What I really respected about this movie is I thought everything was going to be okay. I really thought that somehow this kid's going to have that standoff with Krampus, and it's going to.
Spoiler alert.
Well, we do spoil movies. We spoil these that we're watching. So we're going to spoil this movie. If you don't know that from listening to our show, and welcome, we spoil movies. In that final scene, where he basically confronts Krampus and says all those things, I thought that was really well done. Like I really felt for the kid. And what he was.
He's a great actor.
Yeah, he was excellent. Everyone
really
in this
great.
movie was an excellent actor and played their role well. Even, the children that were kind of obnoxious and stuff, they were obnoxious. They were who they were supposed to be, obnoxious little assholes. And you bought into that. I was sad that the dog died. Like,
oh yeah. You don't really know, but
but you kind of like
you assume,
right? And now here's a question, and this is as we spoil. What do we think where are they?
They are. This is my what I perceived it as when I seen this in theaters. Because like when it did the whole, he wakes up and he's going back down to his family like nothing's happened. I was like, all right, this ending just pissed me off. And then
I would have liked that if he had just learned from a bad dream.
Yeah, see, I didn't want like that full on happy ending.
Because you hate Christmas.
Well, no, I just don't like the fact that everything would have been for nothing. We watched it go and then just kind of be erased.
Well, it seems like a cop-out, right?
Yeah.
It seems like a cop-out in the end.
But then when you see it pan out and you see it's like their whole town is in a freaking Christmas globe, and he opens that Krampus bell.
Isn't it just their house?
No, it's the whole street.
Yep, it's the whole street. And when he opens that bell and you just see everybody register in their brains like, oh shit, this really happened. And then they realize what I'm thinking happened is they're pretty much in Krampus's version of purgatory. They are stuck to relive this moment for the rest of their lives.
It's their forever punishment, right?
So their forever punishment is to relive Christmas Day and have hot cocoa?
No, like the whole event.
Be terrorized.
Yeah, but that's not. But they wake up on Christmas Day.
Yes, but I think after
everything happened leading up to Christmas Day.
Yep.
So how are they reliving it?
Because I think they realize, because I think it's something they are stuck going to be living every Christmas now.
I thought they were going to just be stuck in the globe, and that's it. I didn't look that. I just thought they were stuck in a globe, in this ideal, because a globe has an ideal image, right? Like it always looks snowy and happy and whatever. Because there's no hint that they'll relive it, because technically he has the bell now. He's been given the bell, right? Which we heard from the grandmother that was the final thing that would happen with Krampus. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just curious too.
Yeah, this was just my interpretation.
Of course.
Because I kind of look at it as they're not going to. I don't think they're going to relive the same night over and over again. I think what's going to happen is they are just going to be reliving this type of Christmas where bad shit happens to them, but then they wake up and they're fine again, like on Christmas Day.
Like Groundhog Day-ish.
Yeah.
See, I didn't get that. I thought there was going to be a globe. Sorry,
Xander. For me, I feel like it's like a lesson in you didn't learn this lesson soon enough, so now Krampus fucking owns you. Owns you forever. You finally put it together, but guess what? It was too fucking late, and here I have you for the rest of your life.
I like that better, actually.
Yeah, you're within my world now. I can do whatever you want, but your life is gone. You are here with me, and like you said, like in my purgatory, essentially. So that's the way I looked at it. Was like, yes, you did finally come to see what you needed to see, but at the end of the day, Krampus wanted the whole family to see that, not just him.
Yeah.
So that's the way I took it.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I like that, and I thought it was interesting that the grandmother had lived it, survived, right? And I just thought it was kind of weird. So she would have been an orphan, and like her son would have had no idea that she was raised as an orphan. And
also, I love that stop animation.
Yes, I was going to bring that up.
Yes.
When I was...
It's brilliant. It is so
absolutely.
good.
Yeah, because but yeah, I the thing with the whole orphan thing and her son, maybe she just kept that quiet because of the whole Krampus story.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
And also that generation doesn't necessarily share that kind of stuff, right? Like,
right.
Coming from a different generation. But Christmas wise, I don't think you could have a better Christmas movie. I remember when I watched this a couple Christmas Eves ago, and I took my dog out for a walk, and it was one of those Christmas Eves that was really cold. And I remember being like creeped out as I was walking past a park near my house, and the wind was blowing, and it was just that bone chilling cold that we can get up in the northern area. And like I was like, holy fuck, Cramps, it's gonna come get me. Like it was really like it ingrained in my head, and I think that's really awesome.
Yep, I completely agree. So yeah, my thoughts are pretty much mirroring everybody's, though whenever I tell somebody about this film, I tell them, do you like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation? Do you like Gremlins? Do you like Home Alone? Do you like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Because you are getting a mashup of all these films pushed into one.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer?
Yes, with the grandma retelling of Krampus. That's what that reminded me of.
Oh, okay.
But the whole dysfunctional family dynamic was covered perfectly, because this happens in a lot of American families. Like for Christmas, getting together with your family, it's not always the greatest. You always have someone that you'll bump heads with, but you're always trying to play nice and just put that fake smile on. And, that was nailed in Christmas Vacation perfectly. And that's what that reminded me of.
It's nailed here too, where Adam Scott's telling his son, he's like, oh, we got to be nice to our family because they're our family and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, I don't know why I'm telling you this. We have to be nice to our family. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love the family dynamic between like the two different families. Like you have the rich, busy lifestyle one of Adam Scott and Toni Collette and their kids, and then you have the more like gun-toting Republican style of Adam Kirshner and I can't remember his wife's name, but like you got the two girls that are like dressed up to be boys and just wanting to play football and be tomboys.
One of my favorite lines in the movie is when not Adam Scott, but the David, whatever the hell is acting.
Yeah, David Kirshner.
Yeah, he's like, your fancy ass neighborhood's getting destroyed to shit.
But yeah, I just like this because like the first half of this film just feels like a good old like just get together family Christmas movie. Like, well, I'd say the first half hour. And then it starts like getting the dark moments when Krampus shows up. And I have to say, for what they did with Krampus, especially the first introduction of him, when you see their daughter walking down the street and it's getting darker and darker, and all of a sudden you hear the chains rattling and you see him just standing as a silhouette on the rooftop, that like brought chills down my spine because I'm just going, oh shit. And then when he all of a sudden gets active and starts hopping from house to house to house, hearing that on an amazing sound system,
it's
rattles.
Awesome.
Yeah, it just rattles the walls. Like it's so like thunderous. And
and I think it helps put you like in that space, right? Like immediately when you have that booming sound and you have these beautiful visuals of like this snow, like you're immediately like, oh, what if I was in the snow? We all know what it feels like to be freezing cold in the snow.
Right.
If you heard these sounds coming behind you when you were that fucking cold, that's terrifying as shit.
Yeah, and if you know, like when you have a huge snowstorm, it gets like really silent outside, and you can hear everything, and everything's echoey.
Yeah,
and like so, yeah, just that like they nailed that, and I have to say, like, because everything else I agree with you guys completely 100%, but the one thing that didn't get brought up really is the look of Krampus, because normally he's like the horned goat-faced devil like type creature, and with this, he basically is the antithesis of Santa Claus. he's got like a deranged looking Santa Claus face that's all warped and stretched out, like he's almost wearing a fake Santa Claus mask. And I think like when I first seen that, like I was like completely unsettled. I'm going, holy crap, that is freaking creepy as hell. Like just the way his mouth is just stretched out and you have the giant tongue rolling out and everything. Like I thought the design for Krampus was incredible in this. And like I figured it like fit the representation of a demented version of Santa Claus.
Yeah, and for those that are interested, there is a book called The Art of Krampus that has a foreword written by Michael Dougherty, and the art director does all. And it's I have it. It's if you love the visuals in Krampus, that book is a great coffee table book just to have and thumb through. So
I would love to look through that.
It's cool as fuck.
That's really cool.
All right, and then as Heather corrected me earlier, now we are on to the last film.
Scott's just excited to be done.
It's going to be a day. We'll just say that much. So the final film for the night is Better Watch Out from 2016. It is a psychological horror film directed by Chris Peckover and written by Zach Kahn and Peckover. Stars Olivia DeJonge, Levi Miller, Ed Oxenbould. The film had its world premiere at Fantastic Fest on September 22nd, 2016, and was released in the United States on October 6, 2017 by Wellgo USA and in Australia on November 23rd, 2017 by Rialto Distribution. The synopsis is, Ashley travels to the suburban home of the Learners to babysit their 12-year-old son Luke during the holidays. She must soon defend herself and the young boy when unwelcome intruders announce their arrival.
So we will be spoiling this film.
There's no way
we always do.
All of them, apparently.
All of them. We spoil life, actually.
Yes.
No, I try. I've been the whole show. I've been like trying myself not to just do it, just out of habit. Like, okay, don't.
Oh, we only do if we do it for this segment. We always do.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen Better Watch Out, because there is a pretty big twist that.
Way to call me out, Heather. It's all right.
You know.
I was making a joke.
Sorry, Xander. Sorry, Xander. Please keep coming with your knowledge so Scott and I look smarter when we repeat everything you said on this last episode.
Like, sorry.
Like it's our own knowledge.
Like, sorry, we had to re-record the Christmas
I'll be like,
show.
did you know in the 80s there was sex exploitation? I just learned this myself and had no help in finding this information. But yeah, we will be spoiling it because there is a pretty big twist that.
There is, and this one is significant. Yeah. So this is something on our show that we would question on whether spoiling, because like the twist is kind of important to.
Oh, it is. It is. So if you have not seen Better Watch Out and you don't want it spoiled, then skip ahead.
Yep. Or jump out or pause it, go to Shudder, watch it there, and come back.
Does anyone actually do that?
Maybe.
I used to do that back in the day when I.
Okay.
One of the first podcasts I listened to that got me into listening to podcasts was It Came from the Basement, and they would do segments and talk about stuff. And they're like, "Hey, pause it." I'm like, "Oh shit, I'll pause it, watch it, and then I come back like a day later." So yes, it does happen.
All right, well, Xander's like laying the knowledge down.
Loving this.
I love it. Scott's like, finally, someone talks back to Heather.
Yep. Put her in place.
Usually, Heather bullies me for 3 hours. That's our podcast.
It's pretty much true. But Xander, have you seen this before?
I had seen it before, but honestly, it'd been a while, and I was confusing parts of this movie with another movie, so it was good to go back and watch.
Well, I'll say we might as well just, since you are our guest, we'll just jump on with you first and get your thoughts on Better Watch Out.
Yeah, so rewatching it this time, I akined it a lot. It had a lot of things in common with The Babysitter, which is a Netflix film.
Yes.
I think The Babysitter is a better film, but that's a different discussion. So this definitely, it has like all the things of Christmas, right? Like there's Christmas lights, it's cold, there's Christmas music. But the whole movie, I kind of felt like something was kind of missing from it that I couldn't really put my hand on. But I like The Babysitter. And this kid is like a good son. This is like a weird version of The Good Son too, right?
Yes.
Like think Macaulay Culkin in The Good Son, but this kid's much more like bro-y and cheesy. Like he's very confident that he's gonna bang this beautiful babysitter. And he's 12 and she's like 18. He's like, I'm gonna fuck her. He's like, no, you're not, dude. Shut the fuck up. But he's so like confident.
Yeah, he's got so much confidence, which goes. I gotta say, for the kid actor who played this kid, fucking bravo! Like he.
Yeah, like I don't know how his parents read the script. And it was like, yeah, it's fine. You can say her pussy tastes like cotton candy. It's fine. Like it's fine. You can say that on screen. It's fine. So, but I think it does like a great job of like switching it on you. So like the synopsis says, like an intruder comes in, and like, oh shit, the intruder's here. But then there's a revelation of like, oh, this shit was intentional.
Yep.
This little fucker and his friends set you the fuck up, which like infuriates you, right? Like, what the fuck is wrong with this kid? He's clearly sadistic. That's why I call him the good son too. But I don't. There's some really cool moments. Like a boyfriend comes up. Like the whole paint can thing was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But at some point, to me, it just becomes really incredibly like just flat out unbelievable. And to me, it kind of lost its. All the charm it had at the beginning seemed to eventually fade for me for whatever reasons. And that's why I say it's really hard for me to put my finger on it because it had like all the Christmas elements and like the story as a whole was kind of solid, but like there was something missing in there for me. And I think it actually has to do more so with the tone of the film because it stays like bright and cheery and Christmas time. So you have lights, everything's well lit and it's very clean looking. And I feel like this movie had an opportunity to make it like, the kid does such a good job of being this like sadistic character, right? And like I feel like they kind of failed at making it really gritty. Like I felt like it should have been intensified more. Granted, it did get a couple times there, but toward the end, it felt like an imitation of 10 other films rather than something true to itself, and that really kind of hurt it for me. And that's me. I don't know if I'm overthinking it or whatnot, but like. It started off really strong, and I liked when they switched it to the kid being like, oh, this is a fucking setup. But then it slowly just like lost its way, and then I didn't care for the ending either. It just, I don't know. It was okay to me. Like I appreciated half the movie, and the second half of the movie, I felt like it all kind of went away for me. So what do you guys think?
Heather.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair comparison. I think this movie could have taken place at any time.
Right.
This didn't really feel like there wasn't, besides like the house being overly decorated for Christmas in some cases.
Yep, and the child wearing an ugly Christmas sweater.
Yes, an ugly Christmas sweater. It was all kind of like, hey, it's Christmas. Did you guys know it's Christmas? I'm not sure if you know it's Christmas, but it's Christmas.
Yeah, because this is literally like, because that is like literally the best way to like kind of like find out if a movie like has that holiday feel. Could this take place any other day?
And
this could have been a July 4th barbecue.
Yeah, or it could have been President's Day, and it wouldn't have made any difference.
It could have just been a regular weekday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just felt more like a home invasion film than a Christmas film, honestly.
Yeah.
Right. I will say I really enjoyed the awkwardness between the babysitter and him. There were parts where I was cringing when he was trying to put the moves on her, and it made me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Probably because I have babysat kids that are like that age difference and had them kind of hit on me. Not to that extent, but like, you know, it kind of gets a little creepy when you're a young woman with like a young man that probably doesn't need a babysitter at 12.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, I that was probably more of my own reflection in that scene. But it was, I thought the main character's interactions were good. I thought his friend was funny.
Yes.
I
very
like
young version of Jamie Kennedy in Scream, right? Like that's the vibes you kind of get from him.
Absolutely. And I thought the setup of them playing video games or like talking in his bedroom before she came over was really good. I really agree. The first half of this movie was really strong. Then the twist happens and he's kind of, at first you're like, oh, he's just upset that she's rejected him. So he's doing these weird things. But when he kills that one guy and he lets down the paint can, which is very Home Alone-ist, and he's like, I've always wanted to try this, and was a shout out. I was like, all right, we went from like, I have a crush to I'm a fucking psychopath, and like,
and no time, and no hints beforehand, other than the fact he was a prepubescent boy that had
feelings for his babysitter.
Yeah,
right. Like it to me, and then the shit he does with the other boyfriend outside, and then he kills his friend. And he's like, look what you made me do. Like he does this whole narcissist, crazy psychopath shit. And that's where it lost it for me. Right. I felt like that got too much too quickly, just too over the top. But otherwise, I enjoyed the interaction. But yeah, this movie was Christmas because it was based at Christmas, not because it, and it snowed outside.
Yeah.
It was cold.
And I'm pretty much right there with you guys. Like, yeah, this has like the only reason this has a Christmas feel is because of the decorating. There's no other reason. But like I agree with like that twist for him to go from like just macking on his babysitter to just complete and utter psychotic narcissist.
Guess I'm gonna kill everybody.
Hit the floor. Let the bodies hit
just
the
like
floor.
it was like a just flipping a switch with him, and that was like you didn't like. And I've watched this movie, I'd say about 4 times now, like since it's come out, like once a year almost. And like I try to pick up because like try to give you little clues of what's going on, like on your rewatches you can kind of pick up on things that the kid's doing. But there's still not any signs to show that he's that freaking psycho. Right. And I have to say it because I will probably get called out and like by one of our podcasting buddies for saying with the movie The Lodge and saying the stuff that I said about that film. With this film, I also do not like the fact that this 12-year-old boy somehow came up with this elaborate, foolproof plan to pull all this shit off. Mm-hmm. There's
and
no
how long
way
are the parents at the fucking party for? Can we just mention that?
No.
What is this, like a 5-day party?
Right. Yeah. But yeah, like I cannot even buy that this 12-year-old came up with all these elaborate ways of taking out her ex-boyfriends and being able to cover it up. Like there's no fucking way he could have done that.
And like overconfidently, like never for 1 second did he, no matter what went wrong, not for 1 second did he think it wasn't going to go his way. Not for
right.
Yeah.
And being able to just like pull everything off and then pull it off in such a way that, he's believed at the end that, intruders actually came into the house and did all this and while he was sleeping. Like, come on. That's ridiculous. Like and that's the same issue I had with The Lodge with a lot of things that happened in that movie. And I can't judge that movie and then not do that to this film because it's
fair.
But
fair.
But yeah, like I still enjoy it. But yeah, it loses me about I'd say the third act when he just kind of goes the full blown psycho route. But like all in all, like this one the representation is kind of there for Christmas, but like I say, it's just decorating, nothing special.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I'll say so. I think Krampus is pretty much the epitome of what we need when it comes to the Christmas horror. Yeah.
So just let's write a letter to Michael Dougherty and say he's only allowed to make Christmas horror films.
Right. Moving forward.
Yep. And I was saying since
sorry, Blumhouse.
And since we were talking about some films that have missed the mark when it comes to the holidays, we wanted to jump into our Out of the Dark segment with a topic of what is missing in holiday horror. And Heather and I were chatting about this, trying to think of an interesting topic, and when she brought this one up, I instantly came up with one that I thought would be really freaking cool. I even Googled it just to see if there was anything out there that I have not seen before that might have already done it. But my idea would be, I want to see a Hanukkah-themed horror film, but have it done as an anthology and call it 8 Bloody Nights. And it be in a different day of Hanukkah. And it's just a story representing each day of Hanukkah.
Right.
And I think that would be kind of a cool little way to do like a horror anthology for the holidays. And because there's not many Hanukkah themed horror films. I think there's only just like 2, 3, maybe. But like, yeah, we wanted to post this question to you as well, Xander. So did you end up coming up with some idea?
Well, it's the only thing, like, it's not exactly the same as you, but I mean, I know we have, like, on this particular show, I talked about Spinechillers. I know we have a ton of, like, Halloween themed anthologies, but we really don't have a ton of, like, Christmas themed anthologies. But it would be cool because, like, I feel like in Christmas, you could, like, take a lot of angles, right? Like, you could take, we've gotten a ton of, like, deranged Santa stories, right? But we don't necessarily have a ton of, like, deranged elves stories or deranged like reindeer stories, but we, I feel like if we got more Christmas anthology films, I think that'd be really cool because, and you could even like theme it to gifts, traditional gifts, and all these other things, and like different cultures, and you could really kind of like span Christmas over, every country has its own like mythos behind Santa, right? And a lot of them like aren't positive like ours is. A lot of them is like, oh, if you act bad, like I can't remember which one it is, but like Santa will come throw you in his bag and take you to his home and make you basically a slave if you're a bad kid. Like, like he shows up with 6 to 8 people, beats you up, throws you in the bag, and takes you basically to do like child labor if you're not a good kid.
Jeez.
Which is kind of what the movie Scent is based off of. If you guys have seen that, or Saint.
Okay, nope. That's one I've been wanting to check out. Actually.
Okay, so it's based off that mythos, is where like if you're a bad kid, Santa shows up with 6 to 8 people and like throws you in the fucking bag and takes you off.
Wow.
But I just think Christmas anthology films are an easy way to get everybody excited about Christmas. Like the time of year only comes once a year. Like even if you're just doing a bunch of short films pieced together, like I think a lot of people really gravitate to holiday horror, and we still don't get enough of it. So like I know there's a ton of anthologies for Halloween, but there's not any for Christmas. I would just love more Christmas anthology films, or an anthology film if you want to talk about all holidays. Like why don't we do an anthology film that has like, here we go, we start on Halloween, oh guess what, now we have Thanksgiving, oh guess what, now we have Christmas, oh guess what, now we have a little segment on New Year's. Like what if you had a little anthology
you are
film?
describing Into the Darks.
So
but you're like, good ones is what I'm asking for.
Yeah, so I just want more of that stuff. That's why I just don't think we get enough of it, and I think people would eat it up easy because everybody wants it. So
I like that. Heather, how about you?
I think a lot of my ideas have been taken, which is great, which means we're all super smart. I think that we could do more for Hanukkah as well. I think that we do a lot on North Americans' view of Christmas and Santa and stuff like that. I think it's easy, low-hanging fruit to do, to be quite honest. If we were to do something silly, I would like to see something with reindeer fighting back, like Rudolph getting pissed and being like, I'm done being made fun of.
Yeah, making it like one of those like
Jack
animal...
Frost, only like Rudolph.
Yes.
But that doesn't like talk. Make it more like, Grizzly from the 70s or something like that.
Right.
When nature fights back.
Right. And it's just the reindeers doing stupid shit for an hour and 20 minutes.
Like doing LSD and drinking virgin blood.
Yes, right. Like Sharknado, only like reindeers. I think that would be really fun. And I think Krampus did a very good job of making it serious. But I don't know, like I would like more Krampus movies, but better Krampus movies.
Yeah, because after Krampus 2015 came out, there was like a flood of Krampus films, but
and none of them are good.
Bad. Yeah,
like Mother Krampus, Krampus Reckoning, they're all terrible.
The only other Krampus that I've seen in a horror film would be that Christmas Horror Story, and I recommend that one.
And and I wouldn't mind seeing a remake of Black Christmas that actually follows Black Christmas, not.
We don't need any more remakes of Black Christmas.
but the other ones haven't been remakes. Black Xmas is not really a proper remake.
But you don't need to fuck with Black Christmas, the original.
But why can't you take it and modernize it? See, I am all about remakes because it brings new people into the genre, whether we like it or not.
I don't mind remakes either. That's just one of my favorites. And I think Black Xmas does a great job of just playing off the idea. I strongly disagree with a shot-for-shot remake of the original Black Christmas.
See, I would be fine with that. I think it could be updated. And if it gets new people into the genre and we get people watching horror and we make more money from other films, sometimes you need that. You need the low-hanging fruit,
I don't disagree. Yeah, it's like, what scared us in 1974 or whatever doesn't scare us now.
No, and we just need Canadians to make it. That would make it better.
Yeah.
Like if we just had a Canadian crew and they would do a much better job.
Oh, just another random thought is like, what would be fun about like some of the big franchises that we like? Like I would love to see like, hey, let's get everybody's been clamoring for a Jason at Christmas time.
Yeah.
Yes.
It would be cool if some of these bigger franchise names started dropping in on that. So everybody's been dying for a bloody Camp Crystal Lake in the winter.
Yes.
Well, fucking throw Freddy in there. Fucking throw Victor Crowley in there. Fucking throw everybody in there. Let's make all these Christmas versions of all the things we love would be amazing. And they would be cash cows, so I'm surprised that the studios haven't done it yet.
And I think that's the thing with Christmas time, right? Is that you need to have those popular Christmas films that can bring people in, and then we get them into the classics. That's when you get horror fans hooked, and you get them watching stuff that they wouldn't have normally watched. And I think your anthology idea is great, and especially if we had it from. And I watched an anthology recently that did have directors from different parts of the world. That was for the holidays, but I think if we had one that had more stories and we included countries from the continent, Africa, for example. So if we had Uganda or other places that we're not as familiar with, and what they celebrate around this time of year, I think that we could make it even scarier because North Americans are already afraid of what they don't know. So all you got to do is put it on steroids and they're going to be super scared. And then you could have your campy, fun little like reindeer games or, where reindeers fight back. It's a genre that I agree could be explored a little bit more with your really well done films, and then your films that are just going to put butts in seats and get people into watching horror movies, because really, whether we like it or not, that exists for a reason.
Right. And it's existed in Hollywood since the beginning of time.
Right. And we just got to throw some sex in there randomly. Like you could be having sex and Rudolph shows up. Right.
That's why Rudolph has a red nose.
He's that's right. Someone took Rudolph as girl, actually. We could do that. Which actually, speaking of Christmas movies that I would like to see a remake for, and I know everyone loves this claymation.
I turned my Christmas lights on, by the way.
I know. I got excited when I saw that. Is it 1964 Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the claymation? Is that the year it came out?
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing an updated good version of that.
Right. Bloody Tim Burton version?
Yes! Yes! I would love to see Tim Burton take that on. I think it'd be cool. Oh, A Nightmare Before Christmas. We didn't cover that one, but that's an awesome Christmas movie, Halloween movie, whatever you want to call it. That's a fun film.
Yes, it is.
Right.
But yeah, I think I like all these ideas. I would especially, like we were saying earlier, I'd like to see a lot more like just kind of covering different traditions during the year. During this time of year. It would be very interesting to see what people could come up with.
Exactly, right. Yeah, we'll see what happens, but just a PSA: do not watch Black Christmas 2019. Anybody, if you value the first Black Christmas,
or even Black Xmas, I like them both.
Yeah,
I do not like 2019
2019 should never been named Black Christmas.
No, because it has nothing to do with it.
And I will agree with you. Black Xmas at least was a little more. Plus, you had Andrea Martin in it.
They have great kills in Black Xmas.
They do.
And I love the cookie cutter flesh eating scene.
I was telling her that's the part I liked about it.
And it's a very 2006 movie. Like, you watch that movie and you're like, son of a bitch, this is mid 2000s. And you just know that it is. Right? It's great that she's in that, right?
I know, and now she's in all the Hallmark Christmas movies. Like,
is she really?
She is.
Oh boy,
she was in the Christmas Waltz that I just recently watched.
Do you watch these movies?
I watch Hallmark Christmas movies. Yes.
Oh, by yourself, or is there someone that watches them?
My wife likes them. So here's the thing: like, we watch them, and then like within 10 minutes, we have to make predictions. So we'll open a bottle of wine or something, and like start drinking, and like we don't read the synopsises, we just turn it on and like try to imagine where it goes, and we take bets. Like,
you guys sound like you have an awesome marriage. This sounds
that'd be great.
Fun.
Living your best life right there.
It's pretty fun. Like, all those Hallmark movies, like they always have a good ending, but it's fun to like fuck with the plots and see how close you get. And we get pretty fucking close at this point of what happens. So
imagine like one of those Hallmark movies, and then it turns into a violent slasher halfway through.
It'd be great.
And like the dude just starts to or the chick doesn't get what she wants, and she just starts cutting people up.
That's awesome. Not a diamond ring, you son of a bitch. I'm gonna go have my daddy get his tractor out the barn. He's gonna run you over.
That'd be great.
Yes,
that'd be awesome. All right, Scotty, do you want to close us out? Get Xander to do his final plugs.
Yeah, I would say. Just want to say thank you, Xander, for joining us on this episode. This has been a blast having you on.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor to be here.
I'll say you have shown us that we are definitely amateurs in the horror genre.
Yeah, we really are.
That's okay. No. I appreciate the praise, but it's not deserved.
But yeah, feel free to give plug to where people can find you on social media, your show.
Yeah. So obviously you can check us out at cemeterygates.podbean.com. We're also on Spotify and all the other places, but if you need our RSS feed, it's Cemetery Gates Podcast on Podbean. You can find me on Instagram at Xander_Kane. If you want to follow me on there, that's cool. I'll do a lot of on my Instagram stories. I post a lot when I'm watching movies. I'll post a lot of like cut scenes from what I'm watching and movie posters and stuff like that, so you can kind of see what I'm watching if you're interested. Also NSFW, because some crazy shit pops up on there from time to time. But that's why I put it in my story, so it disappears and I don't get flagged by Instagram.
Smart.
Other than that, my actual Instagram posts are mostly of movies and my dog and beer. So, and the occasional selfie. But other than that, you can follow there and on Twitter, same thing, Xander_Kane. And thank you guys a bajillion for having me. And it was a wonderful day. And I hope everybody that's listening enjoyed the show and got some new movies that they haven't really heard about, or just fucking had a good time listening to us, because it was a blast. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Glad to have you on.
Heather, you're really smart. And I feel like now I'm just going to steal I'm just going to steal everything you say, Xander.
Okay.
You're going to be like, I came up with this. I'm like, I'm pretty sure. I'm like, no, I watched all the 70 movies. I know all of this stuff. Right, Scotty?
It just means I have no life. That's all.
Yes, it means you're a film connoisseur. Yes. But yes, it was a pleasure, Xander. I look forward to coming back on to your podcast, because Scott's never been invited. So clearly.
Yeah, we'll get it back on the reins here shortly. We usually take a break until after the new year, so.
You don't want
we got to give Android crap, because he never invites any of the guys from It's Not Horror.
I know, he just invites me.
He invites Heather every time.
He's like, nah, Heather and Mona, that's it.
That's it. He only knows 2 women. You know what? It's hard for him. His wife's I'm not fucking interested, right?
All the other ones he knows are porn stars. So.
Right? And they're too busy to come on. So he's down to really, really low-hanging fruit.
Which would be interesting. Oddly, so when I first started doing the horror stuff and on Twitter, there was a very odd kinship between horror movies and adult actresses and sex workers in general loved horror. So I built a bunch of weird relationships with
you
that
say
whole
weird,
crew,
but I hear
they were great. They're super
stories.
kind people. It's just a weird thing that I never expected, but it's true. The porn world and the horror world somehow oddly collide.
I feel like we're going to have you on for a show in the future that's going to talk about that.
All right.
I feel like you have shown us you are knowledgeable, and
I try.
Yeah, you're coming back if you have us.
Yes.
But in the meantime, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, celebrate it safely. Have a great time. Stay. God, I hope this is the last time I say it this year. Stay safe. Wear your Christmas masks, everybody, and we're all going to get through this. And here's to hopefully better 2021.
I completely agree.
So, in the meantime, I guess why don't you close this out finally, Scotty?
All right. So, thank you, everybody, for listening. And until next time, unpleasant dreams. Ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, filthy animal.
That was awesome.